Here we go. Thursday night. Everybody out there, let me know if you can hear us clear. It's going to be a great show tonight. I got an outstanding panel. I was having a great pregame talk, too, with the fellas here. A lot of news kind of broke starting from Tuesday right till right about now. And there's a lot to go over. Very excited. Great panel. Great chat already. I see you guys out there. I see Marsh out there. I see Ocelot, Rob. All you guys are coming in. Wolfgang's there. Jackknife. What's going on? RPG. What's happening? JC 2013. Guys, please do hit that like button. You know, I don't say it enough, and I know that JC 2013 in the chat does it all the time for me. Guys, take a second to hit that like button and remind people in the chat. We get up there in the hundreds. We get 400 sometimes, 500 people. Let's get 500 likes while we're live. Let's do it now, right? Let's not wait through the week. But if you guys are listening later and you're not listening live, please, as long as you're not driving, hit that like button, will you? It really, really does help promote the show throughout YouTube. I think that's how they get the analytics there. I'm noticing now every week, the notifications are popping up. Are you guys seeing notifications? Do you hit the notification bell? I don't really talk about this on the show very much, and that's a me problem. That's my fault. But nonetheless, if you guys will, please hit that subscribe button as well. Your name comes up in lights. And if you look at that fantastic description right there, right above it is the join button. That is how you get your name in green. I see the great Danelle Brown. He says, I'm here. Danelle, not only are you here, but Nib is here for you, buddy. He is here for you, the great Danelle Brown, everybody. With that being said, it's going to be a great show. Might be a long show.
I've got this. Got straight from the printers. I've got this massive scroll of script just for Donnell. I'm gonna talk for England as I do.
I love it, man. I love it. Don't change a thing about you, Nib. I love it. Guys, again, great show. Tweet it out. Let everybody know we're live here in New York. Without further ado, I'll go ahead and start with the one and only. Let's start with Nib. Nib, I'll start with you first this week. Why not, buddy? Welcome back to the show. Nib, did you have a macchiato? Did you have an espresso?
No, I did not. I'm awake for. I won't go into details, but there's other things that kept me up in a good way.
Oh man, great,
yeah,
great,
in a good way. So yeah, now I'm ready to go. I've got my cup of tea, I've got my bottle of water, and I've got my script. So let me just look through how many pages. 2,753. Okay.
Oh, that's an easy number to remember. I appreciate that, Nib. Shout out to the great Full Sweat Tryhard with the super chats. The super chat's working, guys. Help Mooch. Help. There's a lot of games to buy this year. Help Mooch. Thank you, Full Sweat. I appreciate that. Guys, without further ado, the great Persona is with us tonight. And, Persona, listen, you don't have to do, shout out to the great Crap Gamer. Crap's is a little under the weather. People were asking me. Crap will be back hopefully next week, if not the week after. But Persona, without having to do a full rant, man, it's good to have you back. I saw you and Jay. You and Jay do such great things in the community. I always say this. I'm a big fan of the show, but I'm also a big fan when you guys take to PAX and you guys go out there and you document everything and you guys really, really get into it on what's up when you come back to it. But to be honest with you, Persona, it's a privilege to have you back on the show, buddy. How you doing tonight? And how's PAX East, real quick?
Yeah, what's going on, guys? Your boy Persona, Gamer Persona, one half of the What's Up PlayStation podcast crew, and I'm getting over being sick, Mooch. So my energy is I don't know if I can match your energy.
That's all right. We're gonna carry you right through it, Persona.
Try.
Your family.
But yeah, first off, shout out to the chat. The chat, they love me.
They do love
me.
you.
I think I'm a part of the Mooch family now.
Yes.
Mooch, they love me. Back in the day, they wasn't feeling me, but
they
now
weren't.
They're like, oh yeah, Persona's good. I like Persona. I'm glad when he's here. So I'm glad. Appreciate the invite, bro, and definitely can't wait to get into the topics tonight. And PAX was fun, man. I always say it all the time that I think as much as we interact with people online within the online gaming community, I don't think anything beats actually being around gamers in real life, because those are the real gamers and the real people that you'll really get to see the real fans of just not just your favorite games, but like tabletop games, board games, and all these other different things. Like being at PAX and these other different events, you really get to see just gamers congregate, be together. There is no this versus that, or complaining about this or that or whatever. It's just a bunch of people together cosplaying, meeting up with their friends from out of the country, out of the state, and just enjoying gaming. And I loved PAX, man. PAX was very fun. And I suggest anybody go if they haven't gone before. I think you'll have a good time.
I was just going to ask you that, Persona. You do encourage it, and I'll be honest with you. I reached out. I think it was Bari I was talking to in the DM about it, and I said, hey, are you guys going as content creators and this, then? He goes, Mooch, we're just going to go. And he goes, we're going to have a good time with it. And I said, man, I almost pulled the trigger on it to go too. I do think next year it's worthy of a lot of people listening to a Persona, because I know a few people that went myself personally, and they had an absolute blast. Persona, an absolute blast. And there's a few organizations that do charity work. I'm sure you may have seen a few of them. I have their names written down. I'm going to actually get into not tonight, but I'm going to get into detail when I do my Twitch streams. Some of them, as we go through, we'll be doing some charity ones. I'm trying to work out with some of the people that were at PAX East. So I got their business cards from friends of mine that were there, and they were able to get them to me. So it was really, really cool. I think it's a great experience. And I think, Persona, you nailed it. It's not just they know the talking points that we all bring up on our podcasts and in the community. They know that, but people are there for one thing in general, that is to enjoy gaming.
Yeah,
So
and even like, like the night scene, right? Because, the day scene is being at PAX and doing all these different things. But then, you hit some of these bars that's around there and go out at night and you meet up, because, me and Bar, we've met Jeff Grubb like a ton of times. He was there. So, we talked with Jeff Grubb, and, we saw Ben Scar, and there's all these different people that are just chilling at the bar and just good vibes and stuff like that. And, I met Lucy James, and, just being around people and just chilling, just vibing, having some drinks, good vibes and whatnot, and just soaking in that experience. It's a cool thing, and you just meet a lot of new people. It's a good way. I think PAX and events like that are a good way to network if you're somebody that's like into content creation or into like wanting to get in the industry or whatever, because the access that you have to these type of people, it's literally like you just, obviously respectfully do this, but, walk up to them and just start a conversation.
That's right.
Like, honestly, it's really that simple. For developers, for industry people, media, whatever it is, it really is that easy and that simple.
And I'll say one more thing here, Persona, before we get to the topics tonight and the rest of the panel, is that not only do you have that access to so many great people in the industry, but without having E3 over here, the PAX celebration, East, I don't know if they still do the Southwest, and I don't know if they still do the Pacific Northwest PAX, but those are great, depending on your respected area where you live in the country over here. I was talking to Nib about this a few weeks ago, and we were talking about how, Gamescom is still very, very big in Europe, but we don't have E3 anymore over here. So I do think, I encourage anybody that's listening in the show now or listening later, listen to what Persona was just saying right there. It's a really good way to link up with gamers and go around a community that is just there for one central thing, and that is gaming and discussing the industry in a healthy, positive way. And it's a lot of fun. So Persona, I appreciate that. Look into it. Thank you very much. The great Death Singer, everybody. Death Singer, I don't know how you do it. I don't know if it's the CrossFire in you now, but the minute there's news out there, you're on X, and boy, do you light it on fire. The great Death Singer is back, everybody. I think what Persona was saying, where he goes, now the panel and the chat loves Persona, they're going to start to feel that love for Death Singer. Let them feel that love in the chat tonight. Singer, how you doing this evening, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing great. And, everyone loves me. And to Persona's point, I like PAX. I want to go to PAX. Because, as he said about the tabletop RPGs,
yes,
I watch and consume D&D actual plays. And, Natural Six was there, which is one of them. Now, people might go, well, I don't know what Natural Six is. But if I told you, like, Ben Starr is playing D&D there, Alfie Wilson, Alex Jordan, Doug Cockle. So you have Geralt from Witcher. Then you have Ben Starr, obviously plays lots of stuff. Alfie Wilson from Baldur's Gate 3. Alex Jordan, then Harry McIntyre from a whole bunch of games, Xenoblade Chronicle, etc. And Holly Bennett. And it's like all video game voice actors just playing D&D, and it's just great because I know who all these people are. I know the characters they play, and they're great at role playing. So as much as I like, the indie games and whatnot, I'd go for PAX for the D&D actual play as well, because the D&D community is fantastic. And if you're really into RPGs, maybe try playing some D&D, because it is actually really fun. There we go. There's a little thing there. People don't know that about me.
Little look into Death Singer's life, everybody. That's what you're here for, and I appreciate that, Death Singer. But honestly, the people that I know that went actually were there for the tabletop and enjoying those games as well. So you're not alone. I know that gets quite... And they're playing games out until like 10 o'clock at night, midnight, well after the show floor is pretty much done. They're still gaming and playing. So it's an outstanding environment. I can't help but agree. We also have the great David Faulkner with us. You guys know him as the community's accountant. He's with us tonight. David, great to have you back on the show. I'm sure that you were crunching numbers for multiple customers last week. We wanted to have the great David with us last week, but it didn't work out. David, great to have you with us tonight. How you doing? Or should I say, pardon me, this afternoon down under?
Morning. You're close.
Damn.
Just after 9 a.m. in the morning. I'm doing well. Thank you for the rain check for last week. I do appreciate that. Apologies to anyone who missed me last week for showing up. Doing well. Crunching a lot of numbers. It's getting to that time of year. A lot of places, the end of June is the end of financial year, so we're getting through a bit. But yeah, glad to be here. Great to be around, and looking forward to the chat. But I will just take some liberty, if I may. Nib, did your soccer team have a win or a loss this week?
I know a lot of British people are gonna hate me for this. I don't really follow football that much, but my team Liverpool won the league, so yeah, they're doing okay.
Excellent. Well, I'm a Tottenham supporter, so I'm still basking in the glory of the other night. So
fair shout.
Nib, you're going to get a lot of hate mail for that.
How does someone from Australia? How do they become a Tottenham supporter specifically? What's the story behind that?
The story behind that is Big Ange. He very much epitomises what an Australian sports coach is like. Very much an underdog situation, and we'll focus on family and togetherness to get a team that's got no right to be there up to a point to win trophies. So,
all right, cool. Fair enough. I like that answer. Yeah. Fair.
Well, that answer was acceptable to Nib. A lot of Americans listening right now are like, which sport are they discussing, quite frankly? Guys, honestly, I don't know why the U.S. I can tell you this much. The U.S. is picking up on soccer, football, as you guys like to call it, or football. And I'll be honest with you, we really should probably get a little bit more into it. The whole world's into it. But we really haven't picked it up. I mean, I think it's the MLS. The MLS is doing okay, I guess, over here. I hope I'm even saying that correctly. I don't really partake. But you guys are discussing this last event the way that me and Persona would probably be talking about the game we watch in early February, the Super Bowl. Another football that you guys might want to take a look at, which we use our hands. We throw the ball. There's a little kicking. In ours, but not much. Nonetheless.
I'll teach you all about AFL one day, mate. I'll teach you all about AFL.
I'm all ears, David. I'm always here for a lesson. Go ahead, Death Singer.
We also have a game where you play with the ball in your hands, and it's called rugby.
Rugby. I was waiting for rugby to come up. Yes.
Really, Australia is really fucking good at rugby.
Yes, they are.
It's just one of those things, So we do play with the balls in our hands.
I'm sure everyone in the audience will like that clip later on, Death Singer. So that's great. Well, listen, you guys are wondering.
Rugby is a hard one, man. Trust me, I used to play rugby when I was younger, and oh man, sometimes you'd get a battery, because it's so physical, no helmet.
It is physical.
You just smash it into each other.
That's my sport of choice too.
Almost reminds me of the way football was played here originally back in the days. But yeah, listen, guys, I do want to say this. The great Donnell Brown is here, and he says the Mets play the Dodgers this weekend. That's right, Donnell. We've got to win that series. The Mets need to win that series. You guys already have a ring from last year. Take it easy, Donnell. Just take it easy. Let everybody get their chance with it. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and start this show up with the great Persona. Persona, I have your tweet here, but I'd rather hear it from you. I'm not going to read your tweet. I thought that this is one of the main reasons I said I got to get Persona on this week, man. He's fire right now with this topic. We got to talk about a few things. And when I say Gearbox CEO Randy Pitchford, I'm not just going to sit here and point the finger at that man, but he did come out and he was asked the question, will the game be $80, Persona? And of course he came out and he says, if you're a real fan, there was much more to this, by the way. There was much more to this. This is just the quote that everyone's running with. If you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. But that really lit a lot of people on fire. And Persona, that immediately likes to become a headline right away, and it goes right from there into an oblivion for the next 48 hours online. So, Persona, you had a couple of points about not only the comment, but the price tag and how the industry may be moving and what happens if other games go in that direction. But I don't want to take the mic anymore from that. Persona, what was your take when this was announced from Randy?
Yeah, so I had seen it like a little bit later. And so when I seen like the buzz on Twitter and whatnot, and I seen what he said, obviously, let me start by saying this. I can understand the outrage
Right.
when it comes to how people may feel because of who it's coming from.
Right.
I feel like it's more so the messenger and also the way it was said.
Mhm.
People take issue with that, which in that regard, I can understand to a
Right.
degree. But despite who it is that's saying it, I don't think the message in itself is necessarily wrong, right? Because when we look at the industry, when we look at the community, when we look at how people, what people are willing to spend their money on, especially at the start of this generation, I feel like at the start of this generation is when the topic and the conversation of cost started to take center stage once the $70 games got introduced.
That's right.
And so we started to see this comparison being made on almost every game with dollar versus content versus value, right? Is this worth 70? You're asking for 70. Are the graphics there? Is there enough content? Is there this and that? And it's been an ongoing conversation for most of this generation. You fast forward to now, we're coming up close to the end of this generation into the next generation, and we see that Nintendo has introduced $80 games. Microsoft has confirmed that some of their titles going forward during the holiday are going to be $80. So obviously now the conversation is being restarted, refueled, and reignited because of now we're moving into $80 territory. And, I don't want to get political, but then, you got the tariffs and this and that and the economy and all these other different things. There's a lot of different variables at play right now outside of gaming, right? Where, people, and again, I don't want to make this political because it's not that, but obviously if you pay attention to the news, if you pay attention to the economy, to the market, to everything, you understand what's going on in the real world. So obviously it is understandable for people to want to look at their hobby and take a little bit of a worrying stance of, well, because of what's going on in the real world, I don't know if I can continue to support this hobby the same way that I have. That's a fair way to feel, a fair way to think and whatnot. And for Randy Pitchford, his statement of him saying a real fan will find a way, and maybe it's because I'm old. We're old, Mooch.
Yep,
but I remember when I was a kid, or when I was young, or younger, and I ain't have bread like money like that, and I had to kind of like sell this game or sell this controller or whatever to get the new game that I wanted. That I'm that fan that he's talking about. I'm pretty sure a lot of people were growing up where it's like the new Mario came out or a new COD or whatever came out, and you didn't have the money. Your mom and dad wasn't going to buy it. And so you was like, all right, well, I got to sell this game, sell that game. What do you think GameStop and CEX and EB Games and all these, that whole buy your games and all, people have been doing that for years. Why do you think that's there?
Yeah.
You feel me? People have been using services like that to buy new games or to get the new games that they want for years.
Yep.
So I think the statement of, well, a real fan will find a way. Yeah, he's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the issue is, again, it's Randy Pitchford, the CEO guy, and I think a lot of other companies feel this way. And we see it with, and it's funny because when I made the comparison of Mario Kart's world, people were telling me, well, Nintendo didn't say what Randy said or whatever. And I'm like, inadvertently they did, because when the price first came out for Mario Kart Worlds, people were up in arms. They were in the Nintendo Directs, and lower the price. This isn't right. This is wrong. That's too much money. Blah blah blah. Nintendo didn't say. The price still sits firmly at $80.
Yep.
So they're inadvertently, they're not coming out and saying it, but they're inadvertently telling you a real fan's going to pay that $80 because we're not budging on the price. If GTA 6 releases at that $80, same thing. If Call of Duty, if any of these other games that are going to release and people are going to want to buy these, release at $80, people are going to complain, but are you going to buy it?
So Persona,
and most people are going to buy it.
Persona, let me ask you a question, because Art Vandelay is saying this a few times in the chat. Shout out to Art Vandelay of Vandelay Industries. He says, this is just one person's opinion. Why does it matter what Randy said? He says here again, he actually down below here, he says, it's just one guy's opinion. Who cares? Persona, what would you say to somebody who says it's just one guy?
It doesn't, again, even though it is only one guy, it's the kind and caliber of guy that it is.
Right.
Randy Pitchford is the CEO of Gearbox. is a big publisher making a big game with Borderlands and a very popular franchise. And he would be somebody that would, if he says something within the industry, people are going to listen because of the kind of position that he holds within the industry, which is why you have so many people up in arms, because you have this rich CEO, right, that they feel is so far removed from the everyday person that he would even say such a thing like that because of his position to even look at the gamer or look at the consumer like that. That is why people take umbrage or take issue with what Randy Pitchford has said, because of the position that he holds and how it comes off to the everyday consumer or the everyday gamer in today's economy and landscape.
To be honest with you guys, that was an outstanding answer. David, was that you chiming in? I apologize.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add to what Persona was saying. Let's not forget Randy Pitchford's history, going back to the early 2000s and the shady crap that he's done and some of the stupid things he's said and done and how he's behaved in the past.
Yeah, I was going to say his record doesn't help. Yeah,
his record doesn't help, right? Which is why I say the messenger, right? The message still is true, but the messenger, it amplifies it times 10, times 20 because of who's saying it. But at the end of the day, and like I said in my tweet, him saying this, it holds the mirror up to the community because it forces the community to really look at themselves and say, well, is he right? And if you're somebody who takes issue with this, but then you have you're buying Mario Kart's World. You can't wait to buy the next COD. You can't wait to buy GTA, regardless of what. How many times do we see these games get announced of like cult franchises or games that people can't wait and say, I don't care what it is, take my money now, blah, blah, blah. What do you call that? And it's funny because I was having a back and forth with somebody on Twitter, and he kept saying, well, no, it's the fact that this, that, and the third. And I'm like, and he's like, well, Mario Kart World doesn't equate. And I'm like, yes, it does. Because if Mario Kart World is releasing at 80, who's buying that? What do you call a person that buys Mario Kart Worlds despite it being $80? What's that called?
A fan.
I call that a fan. Yes, that's a fan of Mario. That's a fan of Nintendo. That's a fan of the franchise.
Yeah.
Again, going back to Randy Pitchford's statement, it does hold true, but the messenger and the person who's saying it is why it comes off the way it does, but it still holds true. And a lot of people in this community, they don't want to admit it because then it's them admitting that they are willing to allow companies to get away with whatever pricing structure they want if it's the right game. And they're scared to do that because they're scared that these companies are going to take advantage, but they already are.
Yeah, they already are.
Because the prices are already being inflated.
That's right.
And you're still willing to buy the games.
Yep. And the
Mario
numbers
Kart
show
is still selling. Yep. GTA will still sell. COD will still sell. And whatever franchise that people can't live without will still sell. Now, every game obviously is not going to be able to get away with this.
Correct.
But these companies know which games they can get away with, which is why people are saying what they're saying. And really, this is why Randy's saying what he's saying too, because Borderlands is a very popular franchise that sells millions of copies every game.
That's right. And you proved that when you were going back and forth on X the other day as well, Persona, which was fantastic. You said, please do your research before you come at me. I do want to say this. Shout out to Liquid Tada. He says, Turok the Dinosaur Hunter was $80 at launch. Let's not forget that. Gavin makes a point here as well. He says there's been a lot of disappointment with AAAs as of late, especially with the political narrative pushed. Increasing the price isn't it. Gavin, I do see your point. Now, I'll go to Jez here. Jez, I go to you here, and I by no means am I calling out your age, but Persona made a point. And when he said he would sell a controller, sell a game, I remember listen, guys, you're all going to laugh in the chat. That's fine. But I think some of you guys are old enough to remember I had a paper route. I would have to work 4 weeks in the paper route to go get a Super Nintendo game. They were all $85, $95, $100 even back then. So Mooch, 4 or 5 weeks.
Mooch, I was 14 years old working side construction jobs.
Yes.
Making money.
For one game, Persona. Okay? You know what I mean? I mean, like I said, but the thing about it was I was so excited to get that game. You know what I mean? Like the excitement, I wasn't thinking about that dollar amount. I was thinking I got to work this hard to get this game that I want to play. Again, no defending it. I'm just saying that's the way it was. So, Jez, what do you think when you hear this, Jez? Did you kind of go off on the situation, or are you thinking, because I think Persona really nailed the question that Art Vandalay was asking in the chat.
Yeah, no, and I agree with Persona. Like, the thing is like, these things are gonna sell, and what these prices are. It sucks that the prices are going up, and what they are, and him saying a fan will buy it, and the thing is like, people will find a way to get it. Then, like you're saying, trade-ins, things like that, like maybe not paying the full price. If you really want it, you'll get it at that price. But I do think that the market will decide whether this $80 or increase of video games will be viable. Maybe there's some games that just can be that price and will go, and some that will try to sneak in and say, well, we're $70 too, but really you're not. And just like how indies kind of gone up all of a sudden, used to be $10 for indies. Now they're like $40 for an indie.
That's a great point. We don't talk about that, Jez. It's great point.
Right. It used to be $10 for an indie at like 15. It's like, whoa, I don't know about that. Now they're like, yeah, $40 indies. And I was like, oh shit, what are we doing here? And everybody's just been going up, and everybody's trying to get more money for what they're making.
Indies,
and,
Jez, the funny part is though that we've come quite a ways from Super Time Force though in the indie category. But
yeah,
go
right.
ahead. You know
I know, no, definitely, yeah. When everybody's doing that pitch, but like, the prices are going to go up, and the thing is that sucks is like that it's happening. But again, you really need to decide on if this is for if this is for you. And again, you could say like, I'm never buying $80 games, but guess what? There's going to be that one game that you want. And you're not going to care what the price is because that's your favorite franchise. That's your favorite studio. That's your favorite type of game. And so, like, it really, again, the market will decide on this. Like, there will be some games they could get away with, some games that just have that clout, like GTA or like even Mario Kart, that they could do this with. And they will test it. And other studios will test it as well. And, but I do think, like, games like, Expedition 33, incredible game. That's not up there. Just because you're $80 doesn't mean you're going to be successful. And when you see success at different price points and stuff like that, it does give an opportunity for other studios to kind of get in that price point and kind of do something there. And I remember back even to the original Hellblade, which it was a $30 quote indie game. It was an experiment, but it was like of this AAA caliber for that price. And that was kind of its shtick, like the fact that it was that kind of looking game at a kind of that price point there, and the first one at least. And that's the thing. Like it really sucks that that everybody's talking about this, trying to get on. I know there's a lot of impact outside, with political stuff going on and things like that. And the sad thing, I'm gonna say the other thing that ticks me off is that these sons of bitches want more money for their games, but then we see developers getting laid off. Yeah. And we see studios closing. It's like, well, wait a second. Is this to save that, or are you going to get more money and still lay off people?
Jez, that's a great point. Nib, I'll take that to you there because, Jez, that's outstanding. We're seeing profits are going up. The reports are coming in that everything's in the positive, but we do see that more and more folks are getting laid off. And it is a head scratcher, I think. And I think that you and David might be able to tackle this.
I think we do need to be careful with that, though, because yes, certain publishers and certain games have higher margins or profits or whatever, but we're also seeing a larger number of AAA failures. So, at the end of the day, it's all about covering margins, right? So they're not looking at it like, okay, I'm selling this many more copies. This is how much production costs have gone up. This is how much marketing budgets have gone up. This is how much, everything, that every aspect of production, from the staff costs to the rent rates to the electricity, gas, you name it. Even I'm sure people who are listening who are not even involved in gaming, maybe you work in office, or maybe you work in retail, or maybe you probably are aware of the dramatic shift in costs over the last several years or whatever, especially post pandemic and post post COVID, post Ukraine, etc. So yeah, they're just covering their margins because you got to think, like, if you're a business owner, like just say I own McDonald's for it's not necessarily always the case that, okay, because this particular burger is really popular and makes a good margin, I'm going to be willing to take a loss on every other burger or product, right? You have to still maintain margins per product, right? So yes, maybe GTA 5 will do gangbusters and irrespective of the price or whatever, it will make those margins.
Mhm.
But maybe another 2-3 games that they release won't have those same margins and may struggle. Hence, they're trying to balance things out across the board, right?
Yes.
Because that's the thing. Like a lot of games do not make those margins, and in fact fail. Even really big titles with crazy licensing and everything the rest, like Avengers or Guardians of the Galaxy or whatever. We have so many AAA games that don't actually make the margins, and when they're being squeezed, the margins are being squeezed, things become far higher risk. So it's not me being like a corporate bootlicker. I know people who have like a really, really limited and almost kindergarten understanding of business always say that. It's like if you mention these things, if you mention factual aspects of business, they're like, "Oh, you're a corporate bootlicker." I don't want prices to go higher, but this is the reality of the situation. Like, even if you just let's just look at from a franchise basis, right? Uncharted 2, I believe, had a development budget of like 15 to 20 million.
Yeah.
Right. Uncharted 3, I believe it was 25 to 30 million. Uncharted 4 was like, close to 100 or over 100 million. Last of Us 2, it's like 250 million or something like that. So the point is, like, they've astronomically increased. And while I do not want prices to increase, I will never penny pinch the hobby that I love. And what I do want, what I fear more than having to pay $10 more, which, let's be honest, like I spend more than that on my lunch. What I fear more is things actually scaling down, because I personally,
That's a great
and
point.
I know not everyone does, but I love my high production state of the art
Yes.
titles. I've always loved boundary pushing, technologically pushing, give me those fucking realistic animations, graphics, visuals, gameplay, expansive worlds and physics and all the rest of it. Like, push things as far as you can. Me personally, I would be willing to pay for that. I know, again, not everyone is. It's subjective. But here's the beautiful thing. If you don't agree with the price, don't fucking buy it, and the market will decide what is and isn't worth it, right? You don't have to incessantly whine.
Hey yo, I love how Niv. I'm gonna steal that Niv. It's like, some people have a kindergarten like understanding. Hey, I like that Niv. He said that in a very polite way. That you dumb as hell. That's why the UK folks, man, them, they know how to speak. Man.
Listen,
they
Persona,
good,
I've been
man.
giving them props. I love that we have Nib on here. I love that we have the great Death Singer on here. We had Wooly Gamer on. When these guys are on, they even use the words meanings that we have, but their verbiage is way better than ours. It is way better than ours. I don't care.
Because especially you, Boost, we New Yorkers, so you know how we gonna let them know.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Fuck, my boy.
Oh yeah, we don't got time for you to pull up a thesaurus. We're just going to tell you how it is, okay?
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
how. So.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Like, there's this kind of like imbalance, because like these people really do think that, yay, higher prices, we're so happy. Like, no, that's not the case. What it is there's a certain selection of us who really want these kind of games to be continued to be made, and for production values to be sustained. There's a big contingent of us with the layoffs and with production costs going out of control with so many AAA failures. There is actually an increasing fear that things on that front may start to regress. In fact, some people think they already have regressed. We've had longer cross-gen periods. We've had, more of this and that. And, even people have been saying the technological advancements this generation haven't been as large as previous generations. And part of that is going to be down to budget, right? So something has to give. And for someone who, some of us who love the art and love, we're willing to pay for it, and the market will decide. But
Yeah,
again,
I think it's fair. Oh no, go ahead, y'all go ahead.
I was just going to counterpoint that, because I'm on the opposite side of Nib here. Like,
PC gamers usually are.
You're right.
No, it's like, I think it's...
You still game, so of course you're on the opposite side.
Well, no, it's like, when the price raises, IDPs and stuff exist, so it doesn't... I'm never paying...
That you don't agree, pirate your games instead. Like, okay, so...
No, but like...
But I don't agree with the price of milk. Let me just steal it from the shop.
No, Nib, hang on. Let me get this off, right? Because you like all this high production values and all that costs money and budget's running out of control. And I want them to dial it back because a lot of these AAA games that they spend all this money on turn out to be dog shit. But then I look at the Kami did it, some of the highest rated games, right? And I looked at the list for everything that was like 50, right?
Mhm.
And you look at all the games on the list, and you're like, see, these are really fantastic games. Sure, they're not up to the production value of these big games, but what I want is good games. I don't want broken games coming out at launch, and then you telling me we'll fix it after a couple of patches. It's like, no, if you're spending all this money to make this shit as big and that bitch needs to be working at launch. Like, I don't want to be.
That's a valid point, though. That's
a
not
valid
like,
point. But the only thing I'd say, Death Singer, though, is that's kind of a strawman. I'm not saying with budgets I want broken games. Obviously, you can have both, and neither am I saying I don't want lower budget games. In fact, my game of the year easily, a 10 out of 10, I've only given 3 others this whole generation, is Expedition 33. It's like, what, $40 or $50 or something?
Yeah.
I don't know. I played it on Game Pass. But the point is, like, I'm not saying that I don't enjoy and can't, a few years ago, one of my favorite games was Hades. And I think also that is a low budget game. So I'm not saying that, but me personally, like, I think diversity is the spice of life. And I like having a gamut of different genres of games, budgets of games, production of games. So, like, I want a bit of everything.
Diversity
and I do
is the spice of life.
Mhm.
Hey, yo, my boy, listen, my boy Nib got the gift of gab, boy.
Yes, he
hey,
does.
Listen, I'm about to use
Yes,
that
he
on the
does.
shorty, boy. I'm about to use that on the chick, boy. Hold up. My boy Nib
Sorry,
got the
taking
gift
notes.
of gab, boy. Hold up. Diversity is the spice for life. Yo, listen, Nib. We gonna talk, brother. I'm about to steal some of that UK lingo real quick. Hold up, bro.
A lot of the UK lingo is it is that
boy
way.
got some swag on him.
He
Boy.
does.
That
I'm
lingo
telling
is
you,
on point,
Persona.
boy. I'm telling you, yo, damn. All right, brother. Go ahead, brother. I hear you. Go ahead, keep talking. I'm listening.
Also, to what Nib just said, it's like, yeah, variety is the spice of life, and it is, but at the same time, it's like budgets are spiraling out of control because they're trying to make it bigger, put more stuff in it, do all this. And it's like, you do all this, but then your game comes out, you go, oh, it's 80. And it turns out the game's broken at launch. It's like, you need to dial it back. You need to make sure the game is good. Then
but see, the thing about that argument is that can apply to an $80 game, 70, 60, 50, 40.
Exactly.
Like, I don't think it's fair to, obviously the higher the price point is, the higher your expectation may be when it comes
and judgment
to
will be,
the judgment, obviously.
Yeah.
And that's where things kind of get a little bit muddy. But I think at a baseline, we all expect for games to release and work and not be broken or have performance issues or whatever the case may be, regardless if I'm paying $5 or $500. You feel me? Like, I expect it as a gamer, as a consumer. I expect it to work and work the way it's intended to, and play the way it's, that's regardless. So I get your argument, Death Singer, but I feel like that argument really just applies across the board, regardless of price. And obviously, the price being higher is going to be more scrutiny behind it, but I think it still all applies regardless of price.
It does, but I just think it's like, because when Randy Pitchford, to reinforce this point, he was like, he posted that clip where he was talking about Borderlands 4, and he was like, oh, we doubled the budget, all this, and it's like, this is reason why the price, and it's like, no one asked you to double your budget. No one asked you to do that. It's like, but then also, everyone damn well knows.
Gamers do, though. But see, we have to get away from that as well. Gamers do. As much as people say they want smaller games, right? And I think, smaller games, and listen, Sean Layden, me and Bar talked to Sean Layden about this. I agree. I think every game does not need to be this big, extravagant $300 million budget.
Right.
It can be 150 or whatever. I welcome that to come back into the industry of making those smaller, mid-sized games. I welcome that, honestly. But look at the games that are selling and look at what people are expecting when it comes to games. As much as people say, oh yeah, it doesn't need to be this, it doesn't need to be that, but you're not buying the games. Expedition 33 is a perfect example. As much as people praise the game, you know, it's still only at what 3 million copies, which is great for a new IP, right? But as much as people say they want something new, something unique, something that's different,
Yeah.
you know, you would think something like that would be at 10 million copies sold already because it's smaller, it's unique, it's from an independent studio, it looks beautiful, it runs great, the combat is fun, the story is great, the music is on point, like it does so many things right. Why isn't it not at 10 million copies? You feel me? There's tons of other games that, you know, may release that are smaller, right? Mind's Eyes is another one that looks, not Mind's Eyes, Blades of Fire,
Yeah,
right?
Blades of
Smaller
Fire.
title,
Yep.
just released. I don't really see a lot of buzz behind that.
No.
You feel me?
No.
Again, and these are smaller, mid-sized games. So as much as people say they want these smaller titles, the actions and what the community is saying that they're will, and what the gamer is saying that they're willing to buy with their dollar, it does not equate. Which
Yeah.
is why
And
you're
also
seeing these
too,
budgets
like, you know, the
continue to increase.
sales, like the games go on sale, and if they put a higher price point at launch, then you know, they're more aggressive with sales. Like a month later, you know, putting $10 off and things like that at different price points. So it's not like maybe not Nintendo, but other companies will do that. So yeah, there's always like, and again, there's ways, and again, the expectations when the prices go up, like there are higher expectations, and games will be judged with more scrutiny on their price points sometimes. Like, you know what I mean? Like a game that's less expensive may not be judged as harshly as a game by the consumer that as a game that you know, length of gameplay as well. Like, hey, is this game 10 hours? Is it an 8-hour game that's $80? Like, you know what I mean? It and people factor all those things in. So, you know, it's really up to the developers and the publishers to come up with the price point that they think, and you know, it's their budget. Also, too, we're talking budgets. Who the hell knows how much AI is going to replace half this stuff? And you know, they'll be complaining about budgets, but meanwhile, have computers pumping out goddamn algorithms and shit.
That's all we're seeing more and more every day. And David, yeah, I wanted to get your take on it because Dave, I think you're going to give an opinion as a gamer, but then you're also probably going to give an analytic look into things. What do you think about this price raise that's possibly impending?
Is it possible? Because two out of the 3 platforms have already said, or 2 out of 4 platforms have already said it's happening.
What Nintendo has said it's happening?
No, it's happening. Nintendo's got it happening. Xbox has got it happening. So the only 2 left are PlayStation and Steam. Steam's not said anything, and they never do. And PlayStation has kept its mouth very, very shut. So, you know, read into that what you will. Do I think $80 justifiable? Well, I can see business cases both ways to say yes and no. But I won't dwell on that. I'll go to what the crux of the conversation has been around budgets increasing, spiraling out of control, and you know, we need shorter, cheaper games. Here's a couple of metrics for you. On Steam, there are for the last 5 years, there's been over 10,000 games released on Steam each year for the last 5 years. Over 10,000.
That's a lot of shovelware.
The top 100 games on Steam, it's barely the top 100 that go past 100,000 units sold. And most of those, the top 20, are the annuals that show up on Steam every year. COD, Fortnite, and all the rest of them, right? So, not Fortnite, sorry. Counter-Strike.
Counter-Strike. Yeah, Counter-Strike.
Yep. So, in that realm, you've got the lowest cost barrier marketplace to get your indie game, get your game out to, and it just doesn't shift units. So you need to think about how you're going to sell it before you work out what your budget is. So with Borderlands 4, let's not forget they were building that game while they were still with Embracer Group. And that was going to be a marquee title coming out of the Embracer Group stables for this year.
That's right.
If it wasn't one of, it was their number one that was coming this year. So they were throwing big dollars at it because that was their top shelf. And after all the stuff that they've done over the last couple of years, that was the one that was going to be, you know, here's the opening for the next round that's coming out to generate our income. Not forgetting that Embracer Group actually has a very low corporate overhead. You hear me talk about this all the time. Big publishers have got massive corporate overheads because they've got to do the governance They've got a heap of regulatory crap they have to deal with, and if they're a multinational or a global publisher, they've got multiple levels of bullshit to deal with, and that costs money. It costs phenomenal amounts of money just to do an annual audit for your financial statements, and you got to do that across multiple jurisdictions across the world. That could run into millions of dollars straight away, and that's just to turn the lights on and open the front door and even exist as an organization. The corporate overheads that some of these publishers have to deal with are nuts, let alone the platform owners. Their corporate overheads are even more insane because they've got the storefronts to deal with as well. So when they crank up the budgets to develop these games and then they start talking about the price points to pay back, it's not to pay back the budget, it's to cover all the other crap that's there to support the studio in making it. So with Borderlands 4, they've gone from a low overhead marquee title position to being bought by Take-Two, who's got a monstrous overhead for corporate overhead. They've been running massive losses for the last 3 years, and Take-Two's got everything pinned on GTA 6.
Yeah.
So now Borderlands 4 has got to do more heavy lifting because GTA 6 has been shifted out another 12 months. The Borderlands, what other than the 2K stuff that comes out of Take-Two, what else have they got coming this year? It's not a very long list, and they're clearing the decks for GTA 6.
Mm-hmm.
So when he stands there and says it's out of my hands, well, it is out of his hands, but he's got a lot of influence on making sure that they can get the return point down to a level where they don't have to do $80. They'd already spent all this money. It's already committed. And it might not have been committed under Take-Two's guidance, but that studio's spent an awful lot of money into that game. So now the question becomes, well, what's the sensible price point to try and recoup what we've done? But not forgetting Take-Two's chasing a massive return on investment. This is the first game Gearbox has released since Take-Two bought them. So they're looking for dollars through the door straight away. It's not just the budget of building the game that gets considered with this stuff. There are multiple different levels to it. And AAA games, yeah, they have big dollars associated with it. They're big projects. They have a lot of people working on them.
Well, it's funny you say so.
Be it rightly or wrongly, it doesn't matter. That's just how things are at the moment.
And it's funny when you were saying that if you're going to take that gamble and put that extra $10 on top of the $70, now making it $80, you probably would do it with a game like a Borderlands does have a fan favorite. There's a lot of people buy Borderlands. They love it. I notice a lot of people in the community will say, Mooch, maybe I'll play Borderlands 4, maybe I won't. But then when we're friends on Xbox or PlayStation or PC, you all own a Borderlands game. You've played through Borderlands. So this is a game that's its household name. Welcome, Brap, to the show. Brap, I got to be honest with you. It is great to have you here. I don't know if you just left practice and came here or you're doing the show from the field. Either way, great to have you back, Brap. What do you think about the whole $80 situation and your buddy Randy Pitchford's comment?
First of all, Randy parties. Let's just get that out of the way. If you know what I mean by
parties.
Randy's
He
parties.
parties.
Randy. And no one should be surprised. We're talking about this on Brap, which goes live Friday nights now.
Oh, what a plug!
Or 8 p.m. But we went live last night because of scheduling. But we had Falky on, and no one should. Logic brought up a great point. No one should be surprised by Randy's response. Randy failed PR classes, and so he's probably not the mouthpiece you want out there. There were some lawsuits against Randy for embezzling money, things like that. Randy's got a little bit of a checkered past, things like that. But anyhow, Falky, and I guess this kind of makes me pull my hair just a bit when people are like, people don't, and I understand, like not everyone understands what goes behind game development, but I would encourage anyone who's wondering why game development is so expensive, why developers keep making AAA games. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of great information, a lot of resources. We have ChatGPT now that can, that you can search and find a lot of information. They'll cross-reference things. I encourage people to use that as opposed to Google or Google search. But my point is that I would hope that people would want to get a better understanding of how game development works, because it is a bit more nuanced. And I'm glad Falky said what he said, because Falky's true. It isn't just the cost of development. It's the cost of keeping the lights on. And let's talk about human capital. The cost of human capital is astronomical right now.
Yes, it is.
For software development, for game developers. And that is, there's always inflationary pressures there for salaries, for compensation. And so naturally, the price of creating video games, I think Destinger said, well, no one asked, Randy Pitcher for whatever, an increased budget. Yeah, the consumer didn't ask for them, but in some ways the market did, because the market is demanding a big open world game, a game with all the bells and whistles.
Yeah, forward progression, right, Brad?
I mean,
Yeah.
I'll say this to kind of play devil's advocate a little bit, because I think I agree with a lot of what everybody is saying. I mean, I said what I said at the beginning of this conversation, but I think the other side of it, from the consumer side, is the consumer is only looking at the price. They're not looking at, the developer that needs to, up the price to keep the lights on or feed the kid. Like, a consumer only cares about, one, the product, the cost of the product, and if they're getting their money's worth. I know it's not, it's not as black and white, but to some degree it is, right? Which is why we have the uproar that we do have, where we have a lot of people that are against that, because they're only looking at, well, now I have to spend more money on the hobby that I love.
Right.
Right. And again, that's me just playing devil's advocate to see it from that side of the fence.
Oh,
as well,
I get that.
I understand.
Yeah, I get that.
I understand from that side of the fence as well, where people can feel that type of way. I understand that. But I think it's important to look at that side as well.
Yeah, acknowledge both sides.
Look,
sure.
I don't disagree. Like as consumers, we look at the relative price. We're not looking at, the fact that, in 1995, a $50 game was like the equivalent of paying over $100 today, or that, the fact that at the start of this generation, we were paying the equivalent of almost $80 for video games, right? When you adjust for inflation. Now, I no one looks at that. I understand no consumer, probably, I might be the only consumer I know that probably looks at things in that lens. Most don't. Most look at relative price. They see a $10 price point increase, and in their mind, and rightfully so, they say, wait, that's $10 more. And they're not thinking about what goes into that. My only commentary on game development is when people are saying things on podcasts and saying things like, no one asked for this, or who's this for? I think we should have more nuanced conversations around that. Again, I'm not saying that consumers can't look at a price point and say, wait a minute, like, look, I don't want to pay $80 for video games. I'm not advocating for that. People have to say, Brap, you guys advocate for that. No, we explain kind of what goes behind. We talk about this
exactly.
We talk about kind of how the bean counters look at things, what goes into game development, managing P&L. We talk about those things on Brap. But no, I don't disagree with Persona. Like, yeah, like generally speaking, like people are looking at these products saying, oh, wait a minute. But again, I say this. There are options in the marketplace. You don't have to pay $70, $80 if you don't want to.
That's right.
For a game to go on sale. There are indies out there, like people like Expedition 33 just came out, and a lot of people are saying this is what we need more of. We got to support more of that. We got to go out and.
That's what Persona. That's what Persona was saying. It's like, let's not neglect the 3 million in sales. But why isn't that? If we're gonna sit here and rant and rave, and everyone's talking about it every week in and out on podcasts, why aren't they at 10 million in sales? Right? Why isn't that skyrocketed? Right? It's $50. It's very affordable. It's a lot of game for your dollar, Brap. Right? But the one thing that we don't talk about it, and you brought it up. I'm glad you did, David. The one thing Brap said that I wish gaming journalists would get into, instead of just like, a comment is made like Randy's, and they're immediately like, they just want to get a lot of the likes, so they're immediately saying things like, oh my God, $10 more. This is a travesty. But the one thing I would be interested to know is the cost that has gone up. I mean, just to have your software engineers, your programmers, your art design, these people are probably making a tremendous salary these days in the higher up area, right? I mean, those folks are making a lot more money. These costs are ensuing, and things go up. So, and then you take into the things into account, like Persona was saying, what's going on around the world, and inflation and tariffs and things that all these things will kind of play into this budget. David, is there a situation where we've seen where the hourly rate has gone up a substantial amount for some of these companies, or no?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In the last 5 or 6 years, it's gone up in some instances 20 or 30%.
Yeah.
And you know, we're sitting here talking about going from $70 to $80 for stuff that's coming down the pipeline, and these the increases in salaries and wages and on costs and all the rest of it are already in there. Sunk. They're done. They're finished. So, look, people get up in arms when a studio gets shut down and people get laid off. Why does that happen? Well, because the companies can't afford to run the damn thing anymore because they're not making enough money to cover it. As I said before, you're not just covering the budget of the game, you're covering for the whole studio and then the overheads and all the regulatory stuff and all that. It is phenomenal how much it costs to run a business these days. Phenomenal. It would scare some people. As an example, Claire Obscurin. Now, we'll go out and say that Claire Obscurin Expedition 33 is not a unicorn. Yes, it's a great game, and they made it with 30 people, but that's not the first one. There have been multiple games each year for at least the last 5 years where small studios have managed to get an absolute cracker of a game out. They don't cost $80 or $70. They've been $30, $40, $50. They've been in Game of the Year contention in multiple different award categories, and they've been spoken about very highly. So they've hit everything that everyone's asked for. Cheaper games, shorter experiences. But as I said before, the fact that people just glide past them and focus on the AAA stuff, it irks the crap out of me. There is a market there that's being serviced, and there's a market that's being demanded by people saying, we want shorter games, we want cheaper games. You're still getting them. You're just not talking about them. And that's where this hyperfixation by these so-called influencers really pisses me off. But side note to that, example, Claire Obscurin. Studio's got 30 people that made this game, not including contractors, not worrying about overheads, not worrying about anything else. Just the labor for 30 individuals on average, 5 years to build that game, $28 million.
Wow. Yeah.
$28 million for the developers just to do that. That's without any contractors, without any premises costs, without any technology costs, no license fees, no additional bits and pieces, no input from the publishers, nothing.
How about advertising? Does that include advertising, David?
No, none of that. No advertising, no marketing, nothing. That's just to put bums in the seats.
Wow.
For 5 years for people to work on that game. So you think about all the additional stuff that's gone into it. Getting the license for the engine, getting the technology and the upkeep for the engine, all the desks and spaces and the workstations that they need to use, then all the additional equipment and material on top of that, all the servers that would have had to work with, all the other technology costs that have gone into it. Then you've got training, then you've got upkeep,
benefits.
and you've got
Also, just to clarify, David. Also, you said bums in the seat. You mean butts in the seats? Yeah, that's it. I think it's an Australian term. I just want to make sure you.
Yes, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, you have to. Sorry.
To get asses in the seats.
Get the butts in the seats. Yeah, you just people to do the work. Yes, absolutely.
And what's Claire Obscurin's a $50 game, isn't it?
50, yes.
Yeah. 50, yeah.
Yep. So if they've sold 3 million at $50. Total revenue generated is 150 million. But that's not all going back to the studio, is it? Because the storefront's taking their chunk. So let's say that all storefronts it's selling on are taking 30%. And then the publisher's taking whatever their chunk is. Just from the storefront reduction, they're down to 105 million. And they've spent 28 million on the people. Add another 5 or 6 million just for the occupancy and all the rest of it, and your utilities.
Yeah, operation costs.
40 million total. So if you've got 40 million invested at the developer end, after the storefront reduction of 30% is out, they've only got 105 million. They've only got 65 million left to split between the publisher and the developers. So and we're talking like millions of dollars, but we're not talking about a huge amount of money here. When you talk about the big AAA games and why they chase such big in the percentages, $200 million to do, what was it, Spider-Man 2 or God of War Ragnarok? One of them. Might have been Ragnarok. God of War Ragnarok had a plus $200 million budget, and the thing took off and sold millions of copies in the first months. They went way past $500 million revenue generated. Their ROI was over 150%. Why do they do these big budget games? Because when they land big, they make big dollars. Borderlands 4 does 5 million units sold.
Falky,
it'll pay for itself.
Yeah, Falky, to your point, you talk about that 150% ROI. I mean, game development, it's reality. It's just high risk, high reward, especially AAA game development. Because you're right, if you hit the lottery in AAA game development, you're making a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot of times it's the ROI that's always announced in a lot of these articles too, David and Brad, but it's the NOI that people should be taking a look at.
But Mooch, but the reason why they keep, I'm sorry, Falcon, real quick. The reason why they keep making these games, though, I just want to make this point, Falcon, real quick, is that there's a strong demand for it in the market. I mean, and so that's why I say, vote if you don't want $80 games, $90 games, and I do think games will get to $100 at some point. I think it's just inevitable. It's going to happen. Vote with your wallet.
Well, that's it, right? I mean, when it comes down, and we say that all the time, the market will dictate. So let's just take Borderlands 4 for the example, okay? Let's say Borderlands 4 came out at $100 or $110, right? Not the $80, not the $10 bump, but it takes a $30 bump from what we're used to right now. The market would definitely, I think, turn its back on the game a bit. I think that would be a drastic. We've said this a number of times, right? I think we've all said this on different podcasts, on your own podcast, that the $100 that we kind of even fathom that GTA 6, well, we're like, well, GTA could pull that off. But we've always said it a million times, maybe they could pull that off. They could, if anyone, only they could pull this off. So I don't think a Borderlands, the market will dictate that. If things are just trending that way. Go ahead, Persona.
There are certain games that, you know, and I've been saying this for years, and a great example of this is actually Tears of the Kingdom, right? When it released at 70, and, you know, people are up in arms, but it still sold millions. You know,
25 million.
Selling,
yeah,
25 million at $70 for an inferior console with, you know, like especially when the first game was 60 and it's still in the same console generation.
Yes, yes.
So, you know, this is why I'm saying there are certain games within, or certain franchises within gaming, where unfortunately the rules do not apply.
And that is true. This is one of the first generations I remember, Persona, where we may have with GTA 6, right? $100 game, then a few $80 games, then we're gonna have $70 games, and then we'll have a slew of great games like Expedition 33, where they're $50 games. So I don't remember such.
I think people need to also think about is because people are so hyper fixated on the $80 thing, $80 games, which rightfully so, but when you look at the market holistically, if $80 now becomes the new standard for AAA, AA, indies, and all that also sees an increase as well, because now there's a shift in the industry as a whole. 80 is the new standard. 60 is now the new, you know what, like subpar or AA. Indie is now 50 or whatever. Like, you know, I think that pricing structure as a whole is going to shift. We're only, you know, obviously $80 is going to be what everybody focuses on, but I think all indies, AA's, mid-size, I think it all is just going to increase in price.
Yeah,
I think that's a fair point, Persona, because, you know, if the market's sustaining 80, then why wouldn't the market sustain 60 and 50 now, right?
Right.
AAA games,
right?
Because there's still cheaper options. That's a great point.
Yeah. Go ahead, Death Singer.
To preface my earlier statement, because I just remembered this from Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, right? A modern, big, high production RPG. It only cost 45 million USD equivalent to make Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. He said they make all their costs back day one. Only sold like a million or something copies. Boom, they got it. So you don't need a 300 million budget, which is why I took when Randy said, "Oh, we double our budget," and it's like, but you don't really need to do these excess costs. Just make us a good game, because a lot of games now, as I said earlier, release broken. And not only that, they'll release a game at 80. This will happen with Borderlands, right? They'll release a game at 80, then they'll give you Season Pass 1 to buy, then they'll give you Season Pass 2 to buy, right? So now you're up to 120 or 140 or whatever. Then you have the microtransactions on top, so if you want some of the skins and whatnot. So now you're probably up to like 150 all said and done. So it's like, okay, cool. So you're going to do all this, and you're still going to up it to 80, where you could go, well, I mean, you could probably stay 70 and you could do all this stuff anyway, because you could have all the DLC and microtransactions automatically. And that was a problem when someone brought it up. It's like back in the PS1 and all those days. And I'm like, yeah, the games cost what they did, but you had a complete whole game day one. there was no chance of microtransactions or season passes or DLCs.
Let me ask you a question. So explain. So Destiny's one of your favorite games. Did you buy the DLCs for that?
I did, yeah.
So you played into the very hand of how you say these other games are going to move. What's the difference between Destiny and
Buddy
these other
spent
games?
3K
Well,
on
there's a different
skins on League of
things, but-
Legends.
Also, bear in mind, these are live service games, right? This is
Doesn't
their
matter.
whole model.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
The
but
point
like,
is you spent more money than the asking price. Oh, you spent more over the asking price after purchasing the game. Why'd you do that?
because it gives you long-term content. A single-player game doesn't give you that.
But you
Like-
just were talking about DLCs and expansions for these single player games and them charging. Isn't that expanding the content?
It is expanding the content, but then again, Destiny didn't cost 80 or 70 when it released, right?
But you
So
spent more than
it-
that over time, right?
I probably, I probably spent double that. Probably like what, 150?
Yeah.
So
Maybe.
that's
So
you're part of the problem.
Yeah, like I did.
Well,
Your
I am-
argument doesn't make any sense if you are
I'm
playing.
I am part of the problem on that. I'm just saying it's like when
Well-
they talk about budgets, you don't really need these extortionate budgets to put out a good game.
I mean, but let me just interject here, Jessica. I understand like a developer makes that choice. They don't have to, but they want to because the type of game that they're making is being demanded by the market, and that's what's and then
Yeah,
and so we talked about a time where there was loot crates and DLC and things like that with single player game. The reason why developers started doing that because the cost of making games was increasing. The price though for entry was pretty static for the most part for a long time. That wasn't going to be a sustaining business model for AAA game development, but and so that's why they implemented a lot of those microtransactions, those other things, season passes to offset that because they the people historically in gaming have kind of reacted negatively to price increases. They're very sensitive. Sean Layden's talked about this. I think Sean may have talked about this on your show on WUPS, where you talked about the cost of game development and how the price has kind of been static for such a long time. It's kind of you don't raise the price of video games, but that's just not a sustainable business model. That's why they years ago, Destiny, to your point, introduced those things because the market wanted the latest and best graphics. They wanted realistic graphics. They wanted more detailed open worlds. All those things cost money, and the market's still demanding those things. And I think that's why we're seeing those budgets now. Other developers are saying, "Hey, we don't want to create that kind of game," and those games exist, outside the market. Randy, in his case, and who knows? I mean, maybe we'll see what how Borderlands 4 turns out. But his increased budget could be like they've increased the size scope of the world. That costs money, and then the increased cost of human capital on top of that. I mean, I think I understand the point, but I don't think it's as simple as saying, well, they don't have to do that.
The hourly charge for the double in scope that we're talking about from when Borderlands 3 came out to Borderlands 4 is, and we just heard David say it, we don't have to go down that road again. And Brap is double or not double, 20-30%. So Deathinger, I mean, yeah, I understand. You said no one asked for it. I think it was I think it was Nib who said I want to. And Deathinger, I know you really feel this way too. You're right. Nobody asked them to, but in essence, subliminally, Deathinger, don't we always ask our beloved franchises to make sure that the next iteration is bigger, bolder, more beautiful, elaborate worlds, right?
Again, I could bring up Kingdom Come Deliverance, right? The first one was an indie, the second one still is, but it's like a smaller game no one really caught on.
Right.
And the budget was really small.
Right.
But then they put out the banger, which is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
Correct.
But their budget in comparison to their peers in the AAA space, because that is a big AAA high production, open world RPG, all the bells and whistles, yet it only cost them half of what Witcher 3 cost. So it's like you can choose to do it, and I understand that, but I'm just saying you don't necessarily have to get what people want, because people love Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I think everyone here has played it, probably.
Do you think Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 will sell anything close to Witcher 3?
No, it won't. But it doesn't have to for what
And
they want.
therein lies.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Therein
So what
lies
was that's the thing.
conversation.
So Witcher 3 may have cost twice as much, but it will have sold 10 times as much. So, at the end of the day, there's a reason they made that investment, and the market is saying, don't get me wrong, Kingdom Come Deliverance, yeah, great game, but the market is saying they prefer Witcher in a way. They would rather buy a Witcher. So that budget is going, there's a reason they've invested that. And
Right.
Kingdom Come Deliverance 3 will be even bigger and more expensive, right? Look at the difference between 2 and 1. Whatever money they're making from these releases, they are essentially just reinvesting to make it bigger and bolder. And it's like Baldur's Gate 3 and Witcher 3, they were like the breakout games, right? Within those franchises. And essentially they were just bigger and better and with higher production, better stories, worlds, and everything. So they only got to that kind of next level of plateau by investing that money in production into making it.
So here's a question for the panel. Who here is buying Mafia: The Old Country?
Me.
I'm not.
Yeah, I'm getting it.
I'll be picking it up.
Def Singer, will you buy that game, sir?
I will.
Okay.
If I have time.
I was going to make one other point, because I think this is lost in translation sometimes. But for a platform holder,
that's a movie, by the way.
I know.
Yes, it is.
What's that?
Lost in Translation is also a movie. It's a good movie too.
Very good movie. Yeah,
yes.
But what I was going to say, another thing that's lost is like, okay, Spider-Man 2. I know I've brought this up before. 300 million, Last of Us 200 million, whatever. You got to remember, for a platform holder, it's a very different return on investment and investment dynamic compared to a regular multi-platform publisher. Because when PlayStation is investing this much money into a Spider-Man or a Last of Us or whatever, they're not just doing it for the sales alone. They're also doing it to sell systems and be an advertising and marketing tool for the platform and ecosystem as a whole, right? Because if you see these games with incredible visuals and state-of-the-art technology and this and that and cats out on the mat, and it compels you to go out and buy a PlayStation, they're not just selling you the game, they are getting a 30% cut on every single transaction you ever make on that device going forward. So the ROI is so different to just a game sale. When you compound all of that over multiple years and all the purchases you make, they're getting a hell of a lot more for that investment. So just keep that in mind as well.
Let me ask this question. Let me poll the panel real quick and answer honestly. And the people in the chat that's listening can answer this as well. GTA 6. We know that's gonna be one of the most popular titles of this generation. Honestly, probably, but my grandkids will probably still will probably play this game.
It's true. It's true.
But if GTA 6 were to release and the map was the size of GTA 3, but the price was only $50, is that acceptable to you? Would you accept that?
I'm going to be polling the audience right now.
I can't even remember how big the GTA 3 map is. Hang on,
GTA map small. GTA 3 map is small as shit. That shit is small as hell. It's not that big. Pause.
That was a long time ago. Damn.
GTA 3 or Vice City map. Vice City map.
Me personally, I would still buy it, but I would prefer something broader and grander.
Y'all keep telling on yourselves, man. Y'all keep telling on yourselves.
No, I admit that. I admit that. Like that.
Why these developers are creating the games at the size and putting the money that they're putting into these games, man. Because people, as much as, and I'm not saying you, Nib, per se. I'm just speaking in general. I'm not trying to single you out at all. But as much as people say, oh, the indies and, the new Darling Child, Expedition 33, and all this shit. They still want the big games, man. They still want the big games. They want the games that's going to knock their socks.
I will say to Nib's point real quick.
And honestly, I want the big games too, pause. Like GTA 6, hell yeah, I'm trying to drive. I'm trying to go to the Keys. I'm trying to go down to Fort Lauderdale. I'm trying to go all over.
Sure.
That's right.
If I got to pay 80 or 90, so be it.
Yeah.
You feel me? So be it.
before you go, Dessinger, I just want to say one other point as well. I actually think Rockstar as a developer, because like Assassin's Creed Shadows, I enjoyed it for a good period of time, and now it's just bloated as shit and repetitive as hell, right? And I find that with a lot of games. A lot of games I don't end up finishing, especially open world, because they just regurgitate like the same loop, and it gets too repetitive. But I will say, to Rockstar's credit, I usually do not get that in their games, because they have so much unique emergent gameplay stuff. Like in a Red Dead 2, you could be riding along and just see someone get chomped up by an alligator, or like a KKK thing, and you set them all on fire or whatever. Like there's crazy emergent gameplay things that are like equivalent or better than main story missions in other games. And I love that about the way they do their worlds. They are just so immersive. So I don't think that is the size and scope is necessarily going to be a problem in GTA 6. I have a feeling they are still going to fill that world with unbelievable, amazing, emergent gameplay that is still going to keep you. I hope anyway. I don't.
So Glintzer in the chat here, he's pardon me, the super chat. He says, with prices going up, at least give us physical discs that aren't DRM coasters. Looking at you, Doom the Dark Ages. I mean, that's an interesting point too, right? So we are going upwards, and Persona, I know you, Nib, Death Singer, Jez for sure, David, and shout out to Brat. Brat probably had to take off. I don't know if Twitter's down or what, but I can't get Twitter to work even on my phone. But my thing I wanted to ask you guys is, why is it we used to say back in the day, as we approach the digital era, prices will go down? We just had a great conversation for the past hour on that, so we don't need to go down that road. But why now are they also taking away the physical landscape here? Offer that out. I mean, even if they don't make an abundance of them, you say, well, they're not going to have them just sit there on shelves. Come on, Mooch. People are moving digital. I got that. I get that. We all know that. But why not offer that to people? Have that out there. It seems like you're paying more. And for certain customers, a lot of you that are digital only, you're going to go, Mooch, I don't feel that way at all. But physical, I'm not going to use the word collectors, but people who like to have the physical collection in their home, they legitimately feel like they're getting less these days, and they're paying more.
I'm gonna tell you, yo, Mooch, and this is from like a tech perspective. So I'm sorry to get a little nerdy here. A lot of people not gonna like this answer, but just stick with me here, and I'm only just giving the answer from a tech perspective.
Yeah.
Digital. So theoretically, you would think, well, if the game is digital, there's no physical disc or anything, the price should be lower. From a consumer perspective, it's easy to think that and say, yeah, and sure. But you also have to take into account the servers and the cloud storage and all that stuff that has to be maintained. And there's a lot of back end that goes into digital and digital storefronts from a cloud infrastructure perspective. And always, it's called 5 nines uptime. Always up, having that. Man, my terminology is off, but for my techies in the chat, y'all know what I'm talking about. With you have to have as minimal as downtime as possible. Mean time between failures. That's what it is. MTTF. Mean time between failures. You have to have a 5.9, which is a 99.99% uptime when it comes to your digital storefront and infrastructures and things like that. Maintaining all of that, keeping all of that up and running, and that costs a lot of money. When I say a lot, I mean a lot of money. And take it from someone that works with cloud infrastructures on the day. Trust me, that stuff is not cheap. So yeah.
And getting expensive, and continuously getting more expensive.
Oh yeah. Trust me, cloud infrastructure is a very expensive thing to maintain. Very expensive. So when it comes to that digital side of things, nah, that price gonna stay. Because trust and believe,
that's
the
not
other
going
side
down.
of that pricing is definitely not going down either when it comes to cloud infrastructure.
But then again,
There's some other
certain
dynamics.
storefronts.
Yep.
Go on,
Servers
Dave.
and all that stuff. Go ahead, my fault.
No, you're right. I was just going to say there's some other dynamics around that as well, in that it's the storefront owners who are now copying the cost, whereas with physical, they would just run it out of the printers, and then it was the retailers and wholesalers' problem once it popped off the printing press. So the publishers didn't have to worry about all that cost, and that additional cost is now being worn by the publishers, not by the retailers. And think about how much it costs to have a shop front these days. There's minimal margins left in actually doing physical game sales for the retailers. Wouldn't
Yep.
surprise me if a lot of the retailers are saying, we would rather not do this at all.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, so I think I saw a lot of people saying it on X, and I'll say it here. I think I said it 2-3 weeks ago. But the GameStop that was the closest to me, they're closed. They closed, and another one closed a little further down. One of the larger ones in the malls is still here, and there's a few others, but you've got to now go like 20 minutes away, 25 minutes away to get to these GameStops. The storefronts are not holding up. And David, that's a good point. You also had, I don't know if it was Walmart, Target, no, it was Best Buy had removed a lot of their physical media, if not all of it as well. So, I mean, it just seems like a lot of times they're literally streamlining and making a linear path, pardon me, for us as we go down further. Shout out to Blaze 4K. Appreciate Blaze being here. Guys, go over and check out Solidcast on Saturday nights. Go ahead, David.
Sorry, they make more money off selling PSN cards and Xbox Live cards and V-Bucks and Roblox and all that stuff. These places make more money doing that than selling the actual game.
This is true. This is 100% true.
You know, it's interesting, Mooch. I was at GameStop a couple of days ago, and they were saying that they're really banking on the Switch sales, like the Switch pre-orders and everything like that, to really determine the success of the stores and things like that.
I mean, well, they're gonna them banking on that, Jez. You know, I think they're gonna do very well with that. But how long is that keep them afloat, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, you know, they're going to try to bundle some socks and accessories and all the other stuff they try to attack. And you're coming in here for the Switch and they're going to try to sell you
you said
a bunch of other stuff.
GTA 6 as well.
A
lot of foot traffic in
that's
GameStops and a lot of stores.
Absolutely.
So that's going to be another one.
I will say, it's like, it depends on the storefront, because like, this is why I appreciate stuff like Steam, because Steam gives you cloud saves as part of having a Steam account, right? You have all your cloud included. Just sign up to Steam and boom, you got all your cloud, you got your library, you got your multiplayer, you got all your services wrapped up for free into their account. But obviously, you know, you'll buy all your games through there. And there's also like, I don't know. It's really strange how things are going now. And yeah, they'll charge 100. I'm telling you now, they'll put a GTA up for 100.
Are you going to buy it if it's 100, Death Singer?
The only way I'm buying GTA is if it's 60 FPS. If it's not 60 FPS, I will happily sit my ass down and wait.
So if it's 60 FPS and $100, you're going to buy it?
Well, yeah. I mean...
So you're a real fan?
Well, I mean,
yes. So you're a real fan.
No. You're a real fan. A real fan's going to buy it. You're going to buy it, right? Because you're a real fan, right?
I am a fan. But
yeah, you're a real fan, of course. Yeah.
The thing is, it's a generational game. It's not like Borderlands 4, you know? Which is not...
You like that move?
I love it, man. That was...
Ran the pitch of it.
You brought it right back to the beginning.
That was really
I love
good,
it.
but GTA is an exception to the rule. Because it's, you know, it's just going to be that generational game that everyone's going to be on multiplayer, and it is what it is. People ain't going to care even about the campaign. They'll just go jump on online.
I'm playing that campaign. I'm trying to get that plot.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm playing that campaign. But, like,
I'm trying to see Lucia.
Let's go! Shout out to Lucia.
Yes, sir. What's
yes,
good, Bobby?
yes.
Hola, ¿cómo está?
Yes.
Muy bien.
I'm trying to get that, but also at the same time, it's like, I appreciate what it's doing for that price, and for 100, I'd say it's worth it. I just think Randy's track history is stupid anyway. I mean,
I think
you're more so Death Singer. You're more so mad at Randy than his statement.
That's a great question.
He said in his statement that.
But are you mad at Randy or are you mad at the statement that he made? Which one are you more mad at?
He made the statement. So
the fact that he looks like Elton John.
I'm mad at him because he's the one who made the statement, right? So obviously you can't separate the two because he's the one who gave the statement. So they're combined, and
if Gabe Newell made the statement, would you feel the same way?
He wouldn't have made that statement though.
But if he did, would you feel the same way?
But if he did,
I would feel the same way. But I just know he wouldn't.
You.
I don't believe you.
I don't believe you.
Feel the same way.
That's how you'd be like, well, listen, Gabe has got the numbers in front of him. He's done the math. This is what it's all about, right? So
Basically,
Can I-
Steam
That's
doesn't
it. I
make
don't want to
games
like
anymore.
put you on blast, right? But you spent
on.
£3,000 on League of Legends, and in
Yeah,
your
over
words,
t-
because
Yeah,
and
over
I'm not like having a
Go
go
on.
at you. I'm not spending money however you want.
That's
I
right.
spend stupid
go on.
all the
But
time.
yeah,
If you know some of the things I've spent money on, you're gonna laugh at me as well. But
Man,
I'm
I
just
bought a
saying,
Sing- I spend money on stupid shit all the time.
Absolutely.
the thing is,
Exactly, yeah.
you
Exactly, but
also
what-
have
the- the-
you also have to preface that 3,000 with 10 years, over 10 years, right? So now you
Yeah.
have to break down the math of what I've spent in a year. Now it's not
yeah,
so
but how?
great.
Still,
Hey,
divide it by the number. It's what the equivalent of 59 games. You know.
He said, "Oh, it was
The one thing-
3,000. It was 3,000 over 10 years, so it's not that
10
bad."
years. Yo.
I mean, to be
outta
fair,
here.
it's not.
On the skimpiest clothes.
Hey, that's $3,000 on one game. That's singing. Knock it off, bro.
No,
Knock
no,
it
no,
off.
no. The thing is, though, it's like
Yo.
people will spend that on cigarettes over like 2 years, right? And I
So
don't
what?
smoke.
No matter.
So,
It's-
it doesn't matter though. Why does it matter how much I spend on that game over 10 years?
You know why? Because a cigarette smoker isn't telling a weed smoker they're spending too much money.
Yeah, facts. Oh, look at Persona.
That's why.
Persona turned it into like a poet tonight. I love it. This is great.
No,
Oh,
hey,
shit.
Yo, listen,
no,
they in my bag tonight. Like, yo, he
You
got
are.
the gift. I got the. I'm with them.
Persona, you keep this up.
Right.
You stay till 9:30. Oh man! Shout out to Babor Country. He says
man.
Fortnite. He said Fortnite and games as a service are killing gaming. Play something new. Babor, I think a lot of people on the panel would agree with you. Liquid Tada. By the way, just a little reference here. We had Porter Rock on last week, and every time he said Death Singer's name, he kind of said it wrong every time. So Liquid Tada says, I disagree with Death Wizard. They didn't have the tech back in the day to fix a game after it was out. Now they do. How do we know we got a complete game? You know, well,
I mean, to be fair, if you rank back on the PS1, PS2, even before then, back shout out to the Sega Master System, shout out to the Sega kids like me. We're all Sega kids. Well, I hope you are. You know, the superior system.
Nintendo.
But, you know,
Nintendo.
No,
I'm a Nintendo. kid,
Nintendo.
sorry.
say Sega was Sonic superior, but anyway, we're not even getting into
guess,
that. But the thing is, you knew it's a complete
That's why
game.
they're making that's why they're not making consoles.
Yeah, that's why they got
now,
out of
right?
the business.
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
They're gone.
No,
Not making consoles
The-
anymore.
the reason Sega isn't doing it is because of PlayStation, not Nintendo, and themselves. So
Nah,
there we
Sega did it because they released like 5 systems in a span
And
of like
themselves.
6
Oh
years.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
because
knock
they're
it off.
completely
attachments.
stupid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
knock
I
it
know.
off. Knock it off.
Sega was completely
Hey.
stupid, but you know, hey, go ahead, Dave.
Sorry. I just wanted to. I find it difficult. My perspective, and I'll be unique in this because not a lot of people will dive into the numbers like I do, and the business theory and all the rest of it behind it. But I'm just gonna go out on a limb for a little bit here. I find it difficult to try and match different generations within the gaming, and not just like we're at the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series. Like we're in the 9th. We're about to be in the 10th generation. When the Switch 2 comes out, and I find it difficult when you go not generations that are sitting side by side. So going from PS4 to PS5, so 8th to 9th gen, or Switch to Switch 2, 9th to 10th gen. If you try and mark back to PS1, PS2, and compare what we've got now to what we had then, and ask the question, well, why is it so much more expensive, and why is it this, and why is it that? If you go back to a PS1 or a Nintendo 64 game, or even the Sega Genesis games, we accepted crappy frame rates, frame rate drops, bugs and breaks in
Yes.
systems,
Thank you.
less than 30 FPS, screen tearing, pop-ins, games that had levels that you couldn't finish, and all that sort of stuff. So if they shipped something that was rubbish, they only had a 4 to 6 month window in which it mattered, and then it never mattered. So we accepted all that now. If GTA 6 came out with screen tear, pop-in, less than 30 FPS, massive frame drops, bugs and breaks, systems that don't work, do you think that they would sell it at all? No, because we won't accept that as a standard. The standards have greatly increased. But I'll use GTA 6 as an example. They've delayed that thing by over 12 months. and we saw what it looks like in gameplay. It looks phenomenal. So they've delayed it not because there's an issue with the graphics and polishing. They've delayed it because there must be an issue in one of the systems, one of the core systems that they still need time to get right. So they're taking that delay and they're wearing it at massive cost
Mhm.
instead of trying to kick it out the door into a Cyberpunk 2077, which is kick it out there, sell the thing, and we'll try and fix it later and then find out that they can't.
I-
So
I'm
that's
curious,
one of the
David.
things that
I wanted to get your perspective
Yeah.
on this because you're saying it might be one of the systems. What
Yeah.
system do you think might be the one causing the issue?
Oh,
Capital
well,
S.
I meant systems as in game mechanics and systems,
Oh,
not
I thought you meant
necessarily
console.
that it's
Oh, all
going
right,
on the
my fault.
spud, but
All right, my fault. Sorry.
yeah, it won't work on a series spud. I'm pretty sure that's part of the problem. But but that in then turns into the question around why do these things cost so much? If they wheeled out GTA 6 with exactly the same systems, like gaming systems and mechanics as GTA 5, where's the advancement? You know that there's a graphical improvement and there's a story change, but where's the advancement? They're
Mm.
pumping millions and tens of millions of dollars into changing and upgrading systems and making the experience better. And that's where a lot of the cost in these budgets gets absorbed. It's not difficult. They spend 6 to 12 months polishing a game graphically. That's manpower and finesse. That's not hundreds of people trying to sort out the in-depth coding of building something from scratch. And you talk about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. The difference between the systems in the first and the second game, not all that much. Bit of polish, bit of upgrade, but they're effectively the same game, just an update. It's the same with the Yakuza
Mm.
games. They do very minimal changes to it, and they spit one out every 2 years.
Mhm.
Games that come out at a higher frequency, their systems aren't changing all that often. And the annual games, they hardly ever change them. Continuity is king in that respect. That's how they pump them out, A, so quickly, and B, so cheaply.
Well, I
But
think
if you're going to
For
go and build
GTA as well, you
something,
have to also factor in like there's a lot of real world like music and stuff like that in these games that also inflates the price because like
Yep.
when I'm seeing this
Licensing. Yeah.
$1 billion cost to develop, I'm like at first I'm thinking like damn if this game does cost a billion to develop.
Mhm.
At first, I'm like, damn, if this is true, that's crazy. But then I'm thinking, I'm like, well, no, if you got Drake and Kendrick Lamar and this artist and this licensed music and that and this station and people doing their own radio stations within the game that's dedicated to game and that, I can see how $1 billion for a game like GTA that don't seem too far off.
Yeah.
Then you
Right,
got to factor
that's
in
right.
marketing and this and that. No, it don't seem that far off to me.
Right. That's the expanding part there. But and that's what they didn't have PS1, PS2, and start of PS3, Xbox 360. They didn't have all these additional things that they needed to factor in and consider. They do now. Now, again, as Death Thing is saying, it's a choice to do this stuff. Well, yeah, it is a choice to do this stuff. But if you think about what's the point of making another one if you're not going to advance on what's already there? There is no point in doing the same thing again. Don't waste your time. The AAA studios are constantly looking at what can we do to improve. Baldur's Gate 3 was a massive improvement on Baldur's Gate 2,
Mhm.
and Baldur's Gate 3 was in that series, but Baldur's Gate 3 was a massive improvement on Divinity Original Sin 2, which already had a heap of those systems in it from the same developer. So they took the systems, made them better, and then produced that masterpiece. But that costs money because it takes time to code that shit and get it to work. It's not as simple as run around and do this or do that. And yes, there's more assets on the screen and all the rest of it, more characters, and everyone's doing mocap now instead of animation, and that costs money and it costs time. And you've got all this extra stuff involved in doing mocap as opposed to doing animations on a computer. But that leads into the next thing. Crunch is gone. PS1, PS2, PS3 era, N64, Xbox 360, original Xbox, those games were built and they crunched the shit out of those developers.
Mhm.
80, 90, 100-hour weeks were common. They would crunch people like crazy and flog them to death, literally, to get those things finished. That doesn't happen anymore. You want to get 80 hours of productive time or 90 hours of productive time out of a workstation now, you've got to have 3 people on that workstation, not one. You just tripled the cost of doing it. because when you could flog someone under crunch, it didn't cost you overtime because you'd hook them up on a salary or you pay them a flat rate, averaged out over whatever the hours were. Now you can't. So that's another factor that goes into why the budget's getting so big. What you could do with 100 people in the past, you now need 400 or 500 to do it. And there's all this time and investment in those systems. When they've done that, particularly with Unreal Engine, Unity, and some of the more non-proprietary systems, someone's got to pay for all that development, but it's the people that, or the studios that follow through afterwards that reap the benefit. So if you're making something in Unreal Engine, you got all these tools. And I've spoken to developers who are using Unreal Engine 5. You've got all these tools which just make life so simple. There's a game that's being developed here in Australia. There's 7 people building it on a weekend. They've got a full-time job. They're just doing it for fun on the weekend. And it is an amazing game. It hasn't been released yet. I've play tested this thing. It is an amazing game. It's better than half the shit that's on the market now as a complete game. They're just doing it for the fun of it because they know how to use the system, and it's costing them weekend time on their weekends to build it. So they're basically building this thing for nothing other than the license. But that's the benefit of all the stuff that's gone into building those tools up to make them available for others. But someone's got to pay for that. And that's what inflates a lot of these budgets, is all that additional time that goes into the systems and the processes and getting the things advanced. If there was no advancement, then there'd be no point doing it. And again, it costs a lot of money. Someone's got to pay for it.
To Dave's point, is that I absolutely adore Larian and the Divinity. I was back in the original Kickstarter for original Sin 1.
Mm-hmm.
And that had like a 4 million budget, the first one. The second one was like 15, and then Baldur's Gate 3, they estimate about 45 million, right? So you see how that got up there, but it obviously, because, they're better. Like, Baldur's Gate 3 is better than Divinity Original Sin 2, and Sin 2 is better than the first one. If you play them, you could see, they expanded on the systems, the quests, the writing, the graphics, just what you could do in the game. And then the pinnacle of that is obviously Baldur's Gate 3. So yeah, I see the point.
So yeah, I do want to get to another topic here. This has been a great discussion. Shout out to Danelle. Brownie says the Knicks are still choking. Easy, Danelle. We got it. Listen, the series just started. All right, we scored 135 points. We lost
game 1. Knicks in 5.
Thank you very much, Persona. That was crazy. That was crazy. Give me a heart attack. Liquid Tada, who's cracking me up.
That final shot was absolutely.
I know.
I like what?
Yeah.
I can't even. Nightmares rolling around in sweats, just sweating that one out. That was horrible.
Yo, if I was at that game too at the Garden, I'd have, they would hurt me. Kind of like, what the fuck is that bullshit? That shit was crazy.
Is that Persona?
I don't think I've ever seen like anything. That's like some playground shit. Like it hit it went up straight up and right in. Like,
imagine playing a horse and having to make a shot like that. Like, come on,
yeah, like, crazy.
Yo, we'll see the Pacers in game 2. Shout out to Detective Seeds, big Pacers fan. All right, so Liquid Tada says the wizard is lying, and he's referring to Death Singer. So shout out to Tada. He also comes back. He says if GTA 6, sorry guys, the print small here. If GTA 6 costs $1 billion, they're going to make that money back on pre-orders alone. So they said that they are at, $1 billion or over $1 billion, right? They're not, there was rumors circulating it was $2 billion. They said no, they shot that down. David, what do you think?
No way. That game is on a hiding to nothing, unfortunately, from a commercial sense. So aside from having to cover its supposed $1 billion price tag to build it, it's then got to cover all the stuff getting it to market. And it's got to make a return on investment for just the game itself. Take-Two has had 3 consecutive years of not small losses, massive losses. That game's got to claw back the $1 billion. This is from the start. It's $1 billion down to cover its development, and then it's got to pick up about $4.5 to $5 billion worth of losses because it's taken so long to get the thing out the door.
I mean, they'll make that back, no problem. Like, honestly.
Well, how many units do you think it's going to sell in the first month?
15.
In
the first month? 15. It's going to definitely sell 15 million, 15 to 20 million first month.
And you reckon, so if you do 20 million at $100, reckon that's what it'll do?
Nah, I say 20 million.
They're gonna go
I think
$100?
I think they'll release it at 8. No, me personally. Oh yeah, GTA 6. Listen, I've been saying this, yo. They definitely gonna release that shit at 100. I think it's gonna be 100.
20 million units at $100 in the first month. $2 billion revenue. Now take 30% off for the storefronts. Now we're down again, aren't we?
Yeah, but I think
So now
over
we're down
time
to 1.4.
that on top of the online and everything that comes out, I feel like they'll definitely make their money back with that over time.
That's what I mean. How long is it going to take to make $1 billion plus 5 back? $6 billion at $100 a pop. They're going to have to sell an awful lot. It's going to be 40 or 50 million units just to get to that, and that's going to have to be in the first 12 months. We're talking massive record-breaking requirements just for this thing to cover it.
Well, the one thing too, I mean, well, let me ask you a question, David. When they do their figures and they're doing their numbers, does GTA Online come into play for them with these figures? Is this going to be something they can marry those numbers on the books, or no? They are looked at separate entities.
They get looked at separately within the same profit center. But because the online is a constant stream and the game sale is got a peak at launch and then it tails off, it'll be how do you get the online to stay at a higher rate for longer and tailing off? And it'll depend on how they launch it and what it comes with and a few other bits and pieces there and how they market it. But if it's coming out in May, it's coming out right before the summer holidays in the US. Its major market's going to be the US and possibly minor market in Europe. It'll do okay elsewhere, but it's not going to do, it's not going to do 1 million sales in Australia. So it's going to have to be big boom in the US. And if it fizzles at the start because people, don't really get onto it and they have to, the $100 price tag doesn't take, so they got to drop it in, June or July or whatever to get them moving. And they're even further behind the 8 ball. It's got some really risky economics. That's why Take-Two bought Gearbox or Borderlands 4 to kick something out the door to cover the gap.
Yeah.
I'll go out on a limb here. Strauss said something. Rap was talking about this with me the other day. Strauss came out and said something about, we create hits. And, we're not worried about something. He said something odd. And I remember reading it and my thought was, geez, that's pretty big talk for someone who's presided over 3 years of catastrophic results for his shareholders. He's got an awful lot of faith in what's about to come down the pipeline. And that's where I was sort of tweaked. This is before Andy made his comments. I was like, oh, these guys are going to do this. They're going to go the $80. Take-Two will be the first to crack to $80. And they will launch GTA 6 at 100 for the base game, 160 for the premium edition for early access, 4 or 5 day access. Like they've got to. They've got no choice from an economic standpoint, unless they think they can ship 50 million units at $60 or $70, which would be unheard of.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But 60 million units in what, a year? Because, if you look at like Call of Duty, Call of Duty rounds out at about 30 plus million when it's all said and done between the consoles. Obviously PC, that's including PC as well, but
right.
Most of the sale, we're looking at maybe 30 million by the time we roll around to the next Call of Duty, the older, the previous COD would have sold maybe like, around 30 or close to 30 million copies lifetime for that version of the game. But looking at GTA 6, you give them a year, I could see them hitting 45, 50 million copies sold within a calendar year because of the kind of caliber of game that this is. Just look at the buzz around this game. Like my Nana knows
my
Nana knows. She watched the second trailer. You understand? You think I'm bullshitting?
I know.
I'm dead ass.
I believe you.
She watched the
I
second
believe you.
trailer, and she wants to play the goddamn.
You know
game.
what? It's funny. So Persona.
I'm not kidding, man.
Persona.
I'm dead ass serious.
You just brought something to the forefront, though. When people used to talk about the Wii, okay, not the Wii U, the Wii. People were like, the reason it was so damn successful is they said you didn't just have moms and dads picking this up. You had grandmas and grandpas picking this thing up.
Absolutely.
Persona's telling you right now that nanas are watching this and they know what it is. If they are picking this up, honestly, David, if we're talking those kinds of numbers, it would not surprise me to see this game do the numbers that maybe seem unfathomable, right?
The other thing, too, is I think GTA 6, I think a lot of people that might still be on older consoles or waiting, I think GTA 6 is going to inject a lot of console sales.
Oh, Sony's
into
ready.
The industry as well, especially with Sony, especially if Sony has the marketing, which I think that's all but confirmed at this point.
I would think so.
Anything could change, but
right.
It seems like it is. But if it isn't, whatever. But even if it isn't, it's still going to sell most on
anyway. Persona Barry says GTA 6 is a big skip. You got to fill us in. What is Jay's inside? What's his inside feelings on that from the other half of what's up PlayStation?
Mooch, Barry want to be different, man.
He's gonna be different.
He want to be the unique one. Like, I don't think GTA. Shut up, man. He buying it day one. He gonna have to collect his edition.
Exactly. I'll see you in Vice City, Jay. What do you think? That's like.
Well, one thing to GTA, right? I just had a look at trailer 2.
Yes.
17 days, 114 million views.
Wow.
I'm telling you, man.
Wow.
I think GTA 6 is a game that could beat that record. Like what David is saying, having to sell like 40 or something million within a year or within whatever fiscal year. I really think GTA 6 would be that game to shatter that type of record. Honestly.
Like, how'd you get 114 million people watch a trailer? It's literally just how long is it? Like, what is it? 2.5
3 minutes.
Like 2.5 minutes.
3 minutes.
Not even 3 minutes.
3 minute trailer, and you got 140 million. Like,
I mean, I'm at least 1 million of those views.
It's like that was me.
I expect PlayStation and Xbox just to sell. Even Xbox are going to sell a whole bunch of consoles.
Oh yeah, this is a game that.
Oh yes,
this is definitely a game that Xbox gamers will actually buy.
Yes,
for sure.
Oh yeah,
100%.
And you'll see PlayStation come out with probably sold like 40 million consoles by the end of the year. Like,
I think PlayStation's banking on it.
Yeah, they are.
On that. Especially if they do like
some
a bundle.
consoles
And
hard to find, like in prep for it.
Yeah,
man. It's gonna really rock everything about the whole like gaming. Like, I think it's definitely something. It's a jolt that I think gaming needs as well. Like, I think it just needs that kind of like that hype of, and I think the Switch is gonna do some stuff too as well. But GTA 6 is just gonna be insane.
A lot of people. Let me see this real quick.
Y'all not gonna like the on my phone.
Go ahead, no, Persona. Go ahead, because my question goes off base. Go ahead.
This gonna sound. I know, because I know the weirdos like to clip your podcast too.
Oh, please, yes, absolutely.
It's gonna get clipped.
Of course.
I think the Switch 2 is gonna sell gangbusters, and I think it's gonna be tremendously successful. But that Switch 2 looking spookier and spookier the more that it will come out, bro. Like, the more shit that come out for it, I don't know, man. Like, I it's gonna sell. The faithful's gonna buy it. It's gonna do numbers. I'm not saying it's
gonna do numbers, but I will say this though, Persona.
I think it might. That Steam might run out of steam a little.
Man, I'm wondering if that does happen, Persona. The other thing I was wondering was, and I think it was BG. Shout out to BG. I think he was the one that put it on X. Like, I wasn't able to get a pre-order, and I'm not gonna lie to you. After the first day or two, when I called a couple of the shops around, I was like, "Hey, you got any?" The next day sometimes they'll get 5 or 10 more. Like, yeah, we got 5 or 10 more if you want to come. Listen, I didn't do that. After that, I was like, I'm done. I got a feeling I can just. I think we're gonna be able to walk in and pick one up. But now Best Buy was reporting something like they're expecting to have extra, a good number of consoles on hand above and beyond the pre-order number. Again, that could be that there's going to be a crazy line, and those are gone in the first 24 to 48 hours anyway. So I don't know. But yeah, Persona, I'm thinking you might just be able to walk yourself right into a Best Buy, a GameStop, and pick yourself up a Switch 2 maybe 3 weeks after it launches.
2-3 weeks. Because I do want to play Mario Kart World, and I do want to play Donkey Kong Bonanza.
Yes,
so
same.
I do want to pick it up. But unlike the Switch 1, Switch 2, I'm not like I can't get a pre-order either. But I'm just like, all right. I'm not really sweating it. Like,
I'm not.
I'm just like, all right.
Listen, I've told everybody I planned to buy it day one. I tried. I did not like go wait in line. I was just trying online. Didn't work out. Okay, great. So I'm just gonna tell you, like, I got to the Persona same feelings over here. I'm definitely gonna get one, but when I get it, I get it. You know what I mean? I was kind of like,
there's no
you know,
like sense of, for me at least,
the
there's,
urgency's
no
not
sense of
there.
Urgency,
No,
like
the
it was with
urgency's
the
not
first
there.
one. With the first one, I had to have it.
Had to have
had
it.
to get Zelda. Had to get this. Had to get that. The case and all. I'm not feeling none of that with the Switch 2, man.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna.
They talking about they already doing the OLED and all this. I'm thinking like, yo, do I need to? I mean, I'm not gonna wait, but it's like, damn, man, why didn't y'all do the OLED to?
That's it. Why didn't you start with the OLED? Because I even went out and grabbed the OLED when it came out on the Switch.
No VRR when docked.
No VRR when docked.
Nintendo, what the fuck? Like what?
Yo, what's the thing where you need a phone number to use the chat?
Nintendo,
did you see that?
Nintendo is
Yeah, I saw
absolutely
that. That's not a big deal though.
Is that for your account though? It's not using any numbers, right? It's just for your
I
account.
think it's for the encounter or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's what I thought.
It's
Yeah,
for
that's what I
like,
said.
you know, like weirdos and spammers and all that.
Mm.
Yeah, so
No,
you can't create
I play my Switch mostly docked. I'm not
That's
really
so that
in
I guess for
handheld, and I'm just
verification.
like, yo, no VRR dock like Nintendo. Like, it's 2025. Who in the room, bro? Who in the R&D?
Who's in the room?
Persona, as I said
Crazy.
before the show, Grandpa Nintendo is gonna Grandpa Nintendo. You need to give him at least another 10 years.
Nah, bro.
No,
We can't keep using this excuse of Nintendo is the grandfather of gaming. Yeah, they the grandfather of gaming, but it's like, goddamn, yo, you still putting out consoles or handhelds or whatever you doing.
Here's the thing: the people that'll buy the Switch don't care. They haven't cared about voice chat.
I care.
Like the past
I
10
care.
years.
I care. I
I
ain't buying
care.
my Switch for everybody else. I'm buying my Switch for I care.
Thing
They
is,
need to do that shit because I want it.
The thing is, I have the Steam Deck, and I want it to be just as good as that, if not better. Come on, do it, Nintendo. Do all that. But they're so far behind the ball, and it's crazy. The thing is, Switch 2, like, when you look at its launch software, you're kind of like, it's a bit, But I guarantee you, as soon as they announce that brand new Zelda, the sequel to Tears of the Kingdom,
Or
whatever
Mario,
it is,
or the new Mario.
and they bring out that next 3D Mario.
Yo, that launch lineup is looking a little sparse though. I ain't gonna cap. That launch lineup is definitely. It's also looking spooky as hell.
It is.
That launch lineup is spooky as hell.
I know for a fact, as soon as they drop that next Zelda and that next Mario in the same year, that shit's gonna go.
Well, that's it.
That Metroid Prime 4 gonna do numbers. Metro Prime.
Yeah, Metro Prime is definitely gonna do well.
Don't sleep on Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong gonna do numbers.
That's the thing. People are not talking about
I'm hyped for Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong's the game right there. And Donkey Kong that's a Switch 2 exclusive. You can't play that on the Switch, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And don't sleep on Mario Kart World. Mario Kart World is going to
It is going to be fire.
That game is easily going to sell 50 million copies.
Yes.
That game is going to sell
80
crazy.
million. It's going to sell 80 million copies. Like,
think about it. That's the first Mario Kart, and it's because 8 was really from the Wii U, right?
Yeah,
it was.
Yes.
Yeah. So
this is really the first new
Wii U.
Mario Kart in like the past 10 years. Crazy.
So yeah, it's like the new Mario Kart since the Wii U.
Don't go underestimating and saying that it's a weak launch lineup, because don't forget there's backwards compatibility and you can pay for the upgrades.
Man,
I
know you trolling David, but no.
Dave's trolling from long distance too. Yo, shout out to but I'm probably saying it wrong. Baticious Prime, he says, much love and respect to the panel and chat. Oh, Baticus, thank you. I apologize. I knew I was saying it wrong. Baticus, shout out to you, man. I appreciate that super chat. Eric83 says, hello, panel. Thanks, Jez, for the info about the MSI Claw for one at Target store.
Yo,
300.
yes.
Now I have all four handhelds.
$380 for the MSI Claw. Like, it's last year's, but they did a BIOS update, and the performance is a lot better than last year, and it's $380 or something like that at Target.
Listen, Jez doing the tech channel stuff, man. God bless you. I love that you do that. Man.
It's funny. I booted up my Steam Deck. I had booted it up in like 6 months. 6 months. I booted.
They got a big update, don't they? Right now.
Yeah, there was a big update, so I like updated it, and I was trying out some stuff on there. Like Steam Deck is a cool console.
It really
like,
is
a cool handheld.
Yes,
I do
is.
like it. Like
I use my thing for
I do too.
emulators, even some streaming stuff, like as like a portal in the Moonlight. Moonlight's pretty awesome also as well. And and then just play some games natively and stuff like that. So yeah, it's but yeah, that for that price, like that's the thing I was telling everybody on my show too. Like for these PCs, these little PCs that are coming out. Go look. Even the Legion Go was on clearance at Target a couple of weeks ago for like $400. It's on sale for $600. But the thing is like getting the consoles from the Z1 Extremes is probably the best thing to do just to kind of get in, because I'm telling you, these new ones, Z2s coming out, they're gonna probably be around $900 and $1,000.
People, you know what it is too? A lot of companies, because I see Amazon is doing this too with a lot of their tech. A lot of these companies are trying to offload a lot of this tech before this tariff shit get crazy. They trying to get people to buy it stuff now, so that they can
definitely look into that stuff.
Yo, some of the deals I'm seeing on stuff, I'm like, this shouldn't really be a deal because it's so new. Like the router I just got, I just got a $600 router. It's only $350, and it shouldn't be. It's because they trying to offload, man.
Which router you got?
The TP-Link BE 1900. This is like super crazy Wi-Fi 7 gaming.
It's like 30 antennas coming at it.
Nah, it looks no bullshit. It looks just like a TIE fighter.
The thing is, TP-Link is my chosen brand of choice.
I had to move away from Nighthawk, man, because Nighthawk interface is garbage, and like I was changing up my settings, and it just wasn't working, and I was just like, all right, you know what, Netgear, I've been with you for years, I'm good, man, and I was looking for like a good alternative because I'm trying to upgrade my network, and everybody was saying TP-Link, so I was like, all right, yo, the app for TP-Link is awesome, their computer interface is absolutely fantastic. I'm like, bro, is this what it's like? I'm like, yeah, TP-Link is the shit. So, and the router is crazy good, man. Like the gaming port.
You gotta send me that. You gotta send me that link after this, Persona. I gotta check that out.
Yeah, I got you.
Please.
You need to, Mooch, because one of my boys put me on TP-Link. Never go back. Like I can't go back.
I can't go back. Yeah.
I gotta look.
And the RGB lights on the router look.
Yeah, I'm in the market, so I'm about to really pay attention to what you guys are saying.
If you're somebody that's like a gamer, and the reason why I say that this TP-Link is really good is because it has a dedicated gaming port where whatever you plug into the gaming port, it and you set the QoS, that whenever you're on whenever you're your PC, your console, whatever, it takes priority over everything else. So it's going to maximize the frequency. Excuse me, not the frequency. It's going to maximize the connection, and you always going to pull hosts low ping. Like my ping is like 4.3. Like this router is absolutely crazy, yo. This is a
I know my luck though. It'll be back up to $650 as soon as I hit buy.
Let me
send that over to me. So let me do it. David, did you have a comment?
Head off. Oh, I got to head off. Sorry, I got to run.
Oh, that's all right. Well, I was going to do a speed round here, but David, all right, David, thank you for being here, buddy. I appreciate it. I know it's almost, well, you're not, you're probably prepping for a late lunch over there, but David, I appreciate you being here, buddy. Thank you so much.
No worries at all. Thanks. Lovely to talk to you all. Keep safe, and we'll chat next time.
Appreciate it, David. I know I got a hard stop here, 3 minutes with the great Persona, but let's just go real quick. Want to do a couple of topics here. The over-under was 4 topics. We did 1 so far. I'm probably going to lose the bet. Let's just welcome to CrossFire. Nonetheless. So here's something I want to bring up for you guys. Okay, so we know Hellblade 2. Jez, I'll start with you, and then I want to hear Persona. Jez, you've literally got a situation where Hellblade 2 is coming out, okay, this summer on PlayStation 5. No big surprise here. This isn't news. It's not a big deal because we knew that was happening. We know Starfield's going to be at some point down the line, and probably Halo to follow, if not before Starfield. All right. Here's the thing that's got me right now. Is all over the place on social media and on the gaming media sites. It's just a whole lot of, let me see here. Where's the one I have? Oh, all the PlayStation Store, all the bragging that's going on with the sales. They're like, can you believe Xbox games are selling on PlayStation? And then they say things like PlayStation is an Xbox, Jez. But isn't PlayStation also an Ubisoft? It's an EA. It's a Bandai Namco. It's a lot of things when you become a publisher. And the other thing is that it's the older games that are doing really, really well on PlayStation, like Forza, right? You had, I think Sea of Thieves sold 1.2 million copies when I last saw the last report. That was probably about a month or two ago. That's not really staggering, but their sales are up there due to PlayStation buying them. But when you become a publisher, I don't really see the flex, Jez, that they're saying it like Xbox the console is now doing that. Xbox the console is diminishing in front of our eyes, and Xbox the publisher, as I said all this time, is going to thrive. They're going to do phenomenal. So because they bought Bethesda, they bought Activision. Even in the examples we were giving tonight, Persona, you said an example here and there tonight. You're saying, Call of Duty is going to do great numbers, even if they up the price. They went and bought these games, these publishers, these teams. Yeah, they're now a publisher. So is the narrative just getting old? It just seems so old, guys. I mean, I don't know.
You know, the thing is that I feel that they are releasing a lot very fast.
It is quick.
Even
it is
announcing
quick.
like while things are coming out, and they are really have their foot on the pedal and just putting everything, where they need to go. Like they're just like whenever it's ready, just go, announce it. Like even the Hellblade announcement, and then the whole Gears announcement, which I thought was strange. Like on Cinco de Mayo, just kind of like it's coming out like later. Like what about your showcase? Like what about that stuff? But hey, they are really just putting it all out there. And yeah, dude, they're coming out there, they're going on a new platform. I think also too, we've seen, even when they started putting their games on PC, like I remember them saying like, oh wow, it's a new audience. Like they're putting their games in a new audience. So obviously it's something new, it's something different for that thing. And people are not really in the know if these even games came out before. They don't know. They just go to the store and see it there. I think one of the craziest things regarding the Hellblade though is that they are talking about enhancements now when they made them play it on console at 30 frames and didn't even do an update, do anything to it, and waiting for like a PlayStation version to kind of do that if that's what the enhancements are. Because that announcement with Hellblade 2 was definitely a PlayStation-centric announcement. Yeah, they said the updates will be getting to PC and Xbox, but it was definitely an announcement that is coming to PlayStation. But hey, you're right. They did buy all these publishers. They put their name on games that were already established. Sold.
Yeah.
And that's they did with Minecraft, and Minecraft was everywhere to begin with. And then they purchased Minecraft, and then they said, we're everywhere. So it's sort of like their MO. That's what they've been doing. My thing about it is that they're moving at such a fast pace that, it's eventually going to slow down, and they're going to really have to do their new games sort of day and date or whatever like that, and they're gonna have to hit, and they can't have like we'll fix it later, we'll add 30 frames later on, because if they want this thing everywhere,
it won't sell.
You can't do that, especially when you're wanting to sell your games. Like these games are nice because you're actually given that extra time to enhance them and make them prepped for a sale,
right?
And in the sense, so but yeah, I'm just interesting how quickly they're moving. It's just very crazy because they're kind of like not even spreading it out, going like, okay, well, let's spread this. They're like, nope, 2-3 games a month, and we're announcing more games coming.
Yeah,
they're I gotta say, they definitely they like themselves in the news.
I think they like them.
Want to be there.
I think they like themselves as third party. I think they're enjoying this immensely. You can even see the teams are excited.
Loves it, man.
They love it.
Blazed.
Well, they want They want their return on investment.
At his financial stuff. You go to Microsoft Financial Call, and he's like, the sales of the PlayStation game, the games on PlayStation is wonderful. Like,
yeah, I mean, but it is. So Persona. I gotta say, Jez, you're reading my mind here. Persona, the whole thing with the Xbox Game Studios are killing it on PlayStation. I'm pretty sure Persona. If you put God of War, and Spider-Man on Xbox, we could say the same thing. If anybody that's going to go third party and put their big titles out there, they're going to do well. They're going to do well. PlayStation's in Ubisoft. PlayStation's in EA. PlayStation's a Bandai Namco. Right, Persona? It's not just an Xbox. They keep doing it every single time. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching this. Is it Circana that used to be NPD or whatever? And like, boy, they're really crushing it. And it's like, well, yeah. They bought Bethesda, and then they put Bethesda games on PlayStation, where Bethesda games always sold really well. Is anybody else shocked? I don't know. People are writing these things like they found Jimmy Hoffa's body. I mean, what? You know what I mean? The article's written with like 15 exclamation marks. I'm like, what? Are we that? No shit. Like, good. I said this a million times. I'll say it again. Xbox, the publisher, is going to be extremely successful. Extremely successful. If I go by every pizza place around my area, I'm gonna do real good, Persona. This just in. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's me overreacting, but it's just a lot. It's just the same thing every other week. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I think you definitely hit the nail on the head, right, Mooch? And I think a lot of this is more so you know, I hate to use this what the young kids use these days, but cope, right?
Yeah.
This is kind of the 5 stages of denial, right? When we first
Yeah.
started this 2 years ago, or because I won't speak on the Bethesda thing, this really started with Activision of this. Oh, now that we have COD and you know PlayStation's going to die and you know they're going to take over and then the
Right.
leaked emails and this and that and you know you don't spend X amount of dollars to not make it exclusive. Like you know there was all these different talking points and things that were happening at the start of the acquisition wars, and a lot of that is now blown up in a lot of their faces where now they have egg on their face. And so they've gone through the 5 stages of denial. And now that 5th stage is accepting it, but there's a caveat. They've accepted it as this is Microsoft's new strategy to take over PlayStation from within. So yeah, these games are selling really well because Microsoft is taking over from within, and it's a Trojan horse, and this and that, all this stupid shit that I see people talking, and I'm like, just 2 years ago, you wanted exclusives,
Right?
You know, exclusivity. You know, the whole reason why this was happening was because of PlayStation money had in games and timed exclusivity and all this other dumb shit that people were talking points that people were using, and now all of that has shifted to. Yeah, and again, it shifted from that to it's only 4 games, which I asked this question last year. If this is a test with 4 games and it's successful, what's the next logical step?
Yeah, what happens next?
Yeah, what happens next? Because you don't just stop at 4. And then Jez brings up a great point. The frequency of how quickly these games are releasing lets me know that these things were in flight well before even the Activision acquisition. This was something I feel they were moving towards long before that because it's too frequent. Within the span of 3 months, 4 months, we've had close to 5 or 6 games that will be from now to August. We'll have like maybe 4 or 5 or 6 games released from Microsoft Studios.
Right.
That's not a coincidence.
No,
that's not. That's an incredibly fast turnaround.
So it was planned.
It is what. Yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
I would argue that it was planned before they even did the whole mini Microsoft TED Talk podcast shit talking about it was only 4 games last year. It was planned before that.
Yeah.
And I said this, $70 billion.
Right.
That is a lot of money for even somebody like Microsoft, who is $1 trillion company. And that was another thing. People kept using, well, they're $1 trillion company. They can eat the cost. And I'm like, you don't get to be in $1 trillion company by just spending and not making.
You know, yeah, I joked all the time.
I never understood that logic.
During the FTC trials, I joked all the time. I said, you know who really hates losing money? Wealthy people. That's who really hate. I mean, they hate it.
How do wealthy people stay wealthy? It's not by constantly spending.
Rich companies hate losing money. Believe me when I tell you.
Rich companies, they made that $70 billion was an investment.
Right.
And it's an investment not just in Microsoft or even in Game Pass. It's an investment in an industry that gives Microsoft a very strong foothold in the industry, so that this gives them the ability to really say, we don't need a console anymore.
I think they
just walk away and still make money.
Go ahead, Nib.
Like now their gaming site is on autopilot when it comes to making money, because you have some of the biggest money makers under you. You got Minecraft, you got Bethesda, and now you got Activision.
That's what I was trying to say to you guys. And I'm not comparing even the quality here. I'm just giving examples. But if Mooch's Pizza wasn't doing that well, it was doing okay, right? It was just kind of hanging in there. But then I go by Domino's, Pizza Hut, and Papa John's. I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm doing pretty good. I'm not gonna lie to you.
This is the thing. I mean,
and I'm reaching more. And I'm reaching more people. Go ahead, Nib.
Yeah, I was gonna say we say 74 billion, but including Bethesda and ZeniMax, it's 84 billion, and that's not including the 7 studios they bought before that. So it's like it's a massive investment. If 84 billion is actually what Sony's entire, and I don't mean PlayStation, I mean Sony's entire market cap was a few years back. So they they bought the equivalent of a whole bloody Sony. So yeah, it's astronomical amounts of money spent. And to put it into a different kind of context, say Xbox's revenue has gone up since the APK acquisition, say 7 billion per annum. 84 billion. I mean, do the maths. Like, if it's 7 billion extra, how many years is it going to take to get up to 84 billion? And that's not profit. That's just revenue. So this is a very, very long-term investment with a huge amount of money, easily eclipses anything ever acquired in gaming, ever. But just to give a little bit of context, and it's interesting. Like, I understand when Forza Horizon 5 came out and when Indiana Jones came out, when they first launched, they were in holiday season, etc. So it's harder to chart. But I've got some data here which I thought was interesting. The PS5 release of Forza Horizon 5 saw it go from number 42 in the charts to number 2. The highest it ever charted with Xbox and PC sales combined was number 4. The PS5 release of Indiana Jones saw it go from 118 to number 6 in the monthly, and the highest it ever charted Xbox and PC combined was number 14.
Wow.
So these games are doing, better on PlayStation, arguably, than they did on the two other platforms combined.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, PC has a arguably bigger install base, much bigger install base than even PlayStation. So it's an interesting thing. Like, Xbox, through these investments and through this change in strategy, is definitely seeing massive success, and arguably they're seeing more success than they ever did with the previous strategy, because when I look back, for example, at Sakana year to date charts, and I did some analysis on this. I know I've spoken about it before. I believe in the last 10 years prior to Starfield, only 4 of their games, 4 of their exclusives had charted year to date. It was, I think it was 28 for PlayStation, and it was 33 for Nintendo. And now with the release of these games on PlayStation, I know they're no longer exclusive, but they're going to be seeing way more games on year-to-date charts now. So yeah, I mean, it's worked out for them. Obviously, what we have to see is if the additional margins they make on PlayStation can compensate for the dwindling of their console platform and the loss of that 30% cut. I think
they might, and the reason I say that, someone El Nini in the chat goes Halo and Starfield next. Here's the thing: I think Starfield, now that it has Shattered Spaces, and I know that didn't do very well with some of the with some of the faithful, but now I hear this new update that they're saying is supposed to be, it polishes the game, does a lot of different enhancements for the game. I think Starfield will sell quite well on PlayStation, to be honest with you. I think it'll sell quite well.
It's weird, isn't it? It's weird because, I know Doom actually performs and looks better on the Xbox side, but with a lot of these other titles, they kind of perform better on PlayStation, or they're saving these big updates and stuff for the PlayStation release, which, even as an Xbox gamer who played these games on Game Pass, I'm not saying it necessarily bothers me, but it's a little bit frustrating, because it's like, Xbox is the platform, it is your platform. Why are you waiting for this Hellblade 2 patch? Or the PlayStation 5 release?
That's the frustration you're seeing from a lot of the hardcore Xbox fans.
And why is this big Starfield patch coming out, potentially closer to the PS5 release? Like, if you've got these patches, release them way earlier so we can enjoy them on Xbox.
That's right.
And why is a Hi-Fi Rush? Why does that look and perform better on the PS5? And the same with Ghostwire Tokyo and all these other games, and Deathloop and stuff. I get it. Maybe the development tools and API and everything, maybe it just performed better on the PS5, or it was easier for them. But it is a really interesting situation where we've got now where a majority, not all, but a majority of Xbox games do end up performing better on PlayStation, which is really weird. And this is not even including the PS5 Pro. I'm just talking about vanilla PS5 here. Again, for me, it's not enough for me to buy these games on PS5, because I already have Game Pass stacked. So, it's not compelling enough for me to actually spend money on these games. But if I was in between, or I wasn't sure if I want a long-term Game Pass subscription, or I didn't have Game Pass, I absolutely would pick them on PS5, because not only are they more likely to be better versions, but then you potentially get both DualSense support and all the rest.
You get all the support, but you're also going to get both sets of exclusives now.
Which is a really, really, really interesting dynamic. And even little things like again, I know it's not serious, and most people are not even going to see this thing, but you got like the Forza Horizon Twitter saying like our true love or something, like I think Walmart put out a tweet like, oh, Forza Horizon on the PS5, and it's like I get it's just tongue in cheek, but it's almost like they're really celebrating this going to the PS5 thing, even potentially prioritizing it more than the Xbox side. And again, it makes sense, because in time that's going to be where their bread is buttered, basically, especially with the sales cannibalization because of Game Pass. Let's be honest, like a vast majority of their sales are going to be from PlayStation, and we know that because we do have data from Call of Duty Black Ops 6 where 84% of US sales of that game were on PlayStation. 84 bloody percent.
That's it.
Previously, like Xbox would actually have a fairly equal split, because shooter type games do well on that platform.
Yes, it was much closer. Much closer.
Yeah, almost 50. Like I think it was like 40 something percent. Whereas now, like in the UK, the Xbox platform, which again is a shooter centric market, which is very similar to the United States. In fact, for the last 10 years, the install base split in the UK and the US has actually been pretty much exactly aligned. But even in the UK, there's a 70% drop in sales on the Xbox platform, including digital, and the Xbox accounted for just 10% of sales. Down from like 40 something. So it's like we can see there's literally evidence of this cannibalization, and I don't know how much Game Pass has grown because of Call of Duty, but we do know from the financials that in the quarter that Call of Duty released, content and services revenue was only up 8% and overall revenue 2%, right? So I have to wonder, is that enough to compensate for this dramatic loss in sales? Because if a game like Call of Duty does sell between 20 and 30 million, and Xbox would have accounted for, I don't know, say 15 something million of those, or 14 million, and you lose 70% of that, that's a hell of a lot of revenue to lose,
It really is.
So it'd be an interesting dynamic. Like, it'd be interesting to see how things go forward. But I think the reason they have such a high cadence of releases on PlayStation, and I could be completely wrong, is because I believe what they're trying to do is accelerate this whole process, and they're trying to get to the point where a PS5 date release is just the norm. And they've got a bit of a backlog now, right, of all these titles that didn't release on PS5. So it's like, let's get this all out of the way, so future releases can just release date, and then
absolutely. That's why you're seeing, like what Jez said, where you're seeing them just kind of fall right over each other. There's all game after game after games. These are the games that they've had in their backlog that they got with these acquisitions with a lot of the teams. They go ahead, they're going to make the PS5. And one thing you said, they just clarify, and this is just a thought, folks. Think about this. Back when the last generation, Phil Spencer, I think, came out and said, the one thing that we said was, if a smaller game went to PlayStation first and we got it, we wanted it. Remember, he said, I want to try to make our folks feel like first-class citizens. So when they poured it over, even though we're getting it late, we would get an additive, right? We would get a skin, or we would get a level, or we would get something else. I think it's reversed this time. So now PlayStation says, you want to put them on our console, you're going to make a lot of money off this. We're going to make some money. You're going to make a lot of money, Microsoft. It needs to be enhanced for the PS5 Pro. In certain instances, it has certain perks for PlayStation, whether it be, again, a character, a skin, or something, to come over and use their system to make money. And I think that's why when you said, I wonder why those certain things are happening with the game, I think that's just negotiations between Sony and Microsoft.
It's a really interesting thing, because, like, I just want one more point, but I remember, like, all this whole ABK stuff, there was like console wars going on, right? Platform wars around it. And I remember so many people, especially like a lot of the like kind of PC influencers, they're going on about how Jim Ryan totally fucked up and he should have taken the original deal, which was only exclusivity on Call of Duty. Like he messed up now they're going to lose all these games, and why did he waste all this time and money? But look at the way it's worked out for PlayStation, right? Because one thing that what's her name, is it Connie? She used to, I think,
Connie,
the
one at PlayStation or the one at
the one in ABK, the Asian lady.
I don't remember her name.
Yeah, but anyway, she
Lucy. Lulu.
Yeah. So she mentioned that basically the deal they got with the percentage split and stuff was better than they ever would have received under ABK. And that is quite interesting because the PlayStation actually took a lower cut of Call of Duty as part of their arrangement with the marketing deal with ABK and everything. We don't know exactly what, but most people assume 20% instead of the 30. But now the implication is that they're back to the 30, and that was part of this way better deal than you'd ever get with us. So as in, she's saying the deal that Microsoft gave was way better than ABK would have given. So they've walked out of this with 30% instead of potentially 20 or more than whatever it was before. And they still get the whole gamut of games. They get everything.
Yes.
So it's like, whatever, you want to criticize. Jim Ryan has done a lot to criticize, don't get me wrong. Like, he deserves a lot of criticism for a lot of things, especially on the live service front. But the gambit that he played with the whole ABK thing, it literally couldn't have worked out better for PlayStation. In every way, they've come out on top financially and in terms of the portfolio and library.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Jazz, you had the Lulu thing going for a long time on the channel, so shout out to you, Jazz. But she's one of the ones that was on there and really led the fight out there. And
she said
the minute they won, she's gone.
Jim Ryan say, remember the Jim Ryan thing that he was afraid of the deal or something like that.
Yeah, because she got paid.
He wanted to block the deal. That's what it was.
I believe her share payout, dividend payout, whatever, for the deal going through is going to be like 124 million. And I forgot what his name is, the main guy, the ABK.
Bobby Kotick?
He gets the gold.
Big Booty Bobby.
Yeah, he gets,
Bobby.
Yeah, Bobby Kotick. Yeah,
Bobby.
His golden parachute is going to be over 400 million, like nearly $500 million. So of course these guys are gonna.
Of course they're championing the deal, right? So let me ask you this: we're doing a speed round here. So Jez, while I have you, I want to ask you real quick: what about this whole thing right now with Microsoft in talks with PC storefront owners, Valve, Epic Game Store, to bring their store to the next Xbox console? How does this even? And I wish David was still here too. How does this even work, Jez? I mean, you're basically gonna. To me, it's a Steam box at that point. So it's two questions: does it ultimately just become a Steam box at that point? A. And B, does Microsoft do they completely at this point drop the Xbox at the next generation and call it Microsoft Gaming as far as their publishing, or do they keep the Xbox name? Are they going to keep that brand because it is a household name?
I don't know. So to answer the question, so I think there's going to be the major move that they're making with the Steam and Epic integration is basically turning that Xbox app into some sort of platform or front end, like a Play Night or something like that, a launcher. Not really a launcher, a host to launch other games. Like they just did a thing with Ubisoft games showing up on the Xbox app on PC, and you still, however, need Ubisoft Connect, and you still need to go through Ubisoft for the DRM and everything. Mm-hmm. But you could buy the game using your credit card information if you have it stored in your Xbox app, or rewards points or things like that. So they may get a cut from that, but you still need to launch Ubisoft Connect. And I think that's sort of what they're trying to go for on PC, to be some sort of front end for all your libraries. And I think that is what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. And the way they benefit from that is probably showing advertisements on that app, or marketing Game Pass or things like that, where you could bring your whole library there. Whether they do it, I don't know. I think Steam really has an incredible, they got a lot of work to do, because Steam has Steam Big Picture and Steam has a whole community, and it's going to be hard to pull that into for people wanting to do that. It's going to be people that probably are Xbox or Game Pass first, and then start adding Steam libraries. Yeah. But that seems to be what they want to do, is morph this Xbox PC app into something more of a thing, rather than just like a destination for Game Pass. But I think what they're doing with that app is they're going to make Xbox PC, which I think that's where their next console would be sort of like a console, but it's going to be PC based. Like, I do not see, and who knows, they can do whatever they want because they got all the trillions of dollars, but I do not see them making a custom architecture where developers will have to build something specific for it, like a traditional console. I see them just kind of using off-the-shelf parts, basically building a PC in a box that would automatically just kind of run similar to like these handheld PCs that will just kind of run everything that a PC does. Because how are you going to integrate Steam and Epic? Those games need to be configured for exclusive, like kind of a dedicated console hardwares. That's why games got to get ported over. You don't need to port if you just basically build it on Windows. And I think also I've been hearing I've been watching other things where they're talking about Windows on ARM. I think that's the future. Like, I don't think ARM is ready for what they want to do. I think that's eventually where they want to go with this, with ARM. But I really think that they are going all in on integrating PC and Xbox app. And one of the other things that I think that they are trying to do, and I think this is what Sarah Bond is doing, is that she's trying to get the main thing that they have an issue with, and this is something that they haven't done, is getting your Xbox library onto PC. And that's sort of the final point that I think that future compatibility. Yeah, you got games from Play Anywhere back from 2017, but like myself, I got a library of 400 games from everything before 2017, before they started bringing stuff over to PC, and those games don't work. And 360 games is another whole aspect because they went really hard on backwards compatibility, and that's another set of games that need to make a PC.
They need to make
whether
their
they
appearance
do
on
emulation,
PC, yes.
I don't know if they're going to do some sort of emulation or something like that, but trying to bring that stuff over is the final step, and I think that's when they could then go all in on this PC, sticker on it. Everything's an Xbox, because technically it really is not when you have games that only could be playable on that console. Now, whether they're going to just say, forget about it, we're starting anew. We did 2017, Play Anywhere. And that's another thing, just on the Ubisoft stuff. Like, it's not taking advantage of any achievements. It's not doing Play Anywhere. So it's not, if you have it on Xbox, you don't get it on Xbox PC. So it's really just like a play night, like a front launcher for all your games. And that's where I think, where you basically just put the shortcut in the launcher, and maybe they'll host some games where you could buy them with your Xbox stuff. But that seems to be the future. Like, that's what I think they're going in on. And I don't think the traditional custom hardware is in their future, because the problem with that is that they then need developer support. You're back into the whole thing. What's your install base? Are we going to make it for your console? Look at Stadia. That was custom hardware that developers did not want to make special extra time to build for Stadia hardware.
That's right.
That's why Stadia failed. And then the thing is, because it has to have an install base. It's like this feedback loop. You have to have enough people that justifies the cost of me making the game for your platform. And that thing, they spent over 20 years trying to justify why Xbox needed to do that.
Yeah.
They were getting stuff day and date, and now they're back to where they're on the other end now.
Yeah, they're completely
back
on the
to
other
like
end.
saying, hey, install base is dwindling, skip it and go future as PC. And that seems to be the thing. And then the last thing they got to do is make sure that their cloud, which currently is powered by Series X's, that needs to be powered by PCs, because developers will probably, as that console kind of goes away, probably are going to they're going to need the PC to power the cloud.
Yeah, no,
that's the whole future. But I do have to jump off though. And
Jez, I appreciate it, buddy. Honestly, thank you for being here. Just let everybody know where they can find you, man. I really do. Like I said,
No problem. Pleasure speaking with everybody today. You can find me over at the Gaming Grindhouse on Monday nights and over at and Jez7780 on the X. So thanks, everybody. Hit that like button before you go, and I'll talk to everyone later. Thanks again, man.
Thank you,
Jez.
Jez.
Have a good one, mate.
Yeah, so Nib, honestly, one last question for you is I just wanted to kind of cover our bases here is Marathon. So Naughty Dog, pardon me, not Naughty Dog, but Bungie's been they got it hit really bad with the press the past 10 days. They stole artwork.
Yes,
they came out right. They've already been. I mean, everything. I can't believe that it's just downward spiral. Listen, at the end of the day,
this has happened multiple times, though, hasn't it, with Bungie?
It has. That's the thing. But it seems like it's hit after hit after hit. And Nib,
literally, it's insane.
My question for you is this a situation where A, we see Marathon get delayed, and B, if and when it gets delayed, does Sony finally be able to use that one part of their contract where they can take over? Right?
That's been I think a Bungie employee even said it. I remember reading a tweet or something where they were like, you know what, I just hope Sony takes over so they can sort this shit show out, which is such a strange thing to hear.
It really is.
Employee. But you assume then, and to be fair, this has been a thing with Bungie for a long time, because I remember talking about even Glassdoor reviews from employees from years back complaining about management at Bungie. So it's not, maybe there is a part of the employees that just think we would actually prefer PlayStation management over what Bungie has now. But either way, like top down, there needs to be complete restructuring, some sort of reprimand or because the thing is, like, I know they kind of tried to just push it off as like, oh, it's an ex-employee now. He left the art assets inside the whatever the texture panels or whatever.
Right.
And it's kind of like, it's not our fault he's left. But it's like, but someone needs to go over and double check these things, because we're not seeing this recurring with other studios, but it keeps recurring with Bungie.
Yep.
So there clearly is an issue structurally top down with the way they manage these things, and just a lack of oversight. And foresight. And it's just I just think from a game that is already potentially struggling on the marketing or exposure side, and there doesn't maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem to be a whole lot of hype around it.
No,
this, if anything, has just created even more negative hype, negative sentiment, and it's just crazy. And so it probably does need a delay. They obviously need to go through all of the development bottom up and make sure this sort of shit doesn't happen. I did want to say one thing though, which I did mention. Like, I noticed like there was some journalist, like, from Forbes and stuff, I forgot his name. He pushed it, and I saw a few other big people push it. While I absolutely condemn the theft of art, and I do think the artists, I believe their acronym short is N2, they should be compensated for or hired, and apologies given, etc., and the issues rectified, because it's completely, it's basically theft.
It is.
I don't think it is fair the way the people are trying to say the entire art style of Marathon was taken from this artist. Maybe it's from a place of ignorance where people aren't aware of this art style, or this this is the first time they've come across it or something. But this style of art, which has many different names, was kind of popularized by Designers Public and a few other firms, like back in the early 90s and 80s.
Yes.
And I actually follow certain Twitter channels that it's called Vector Art, but there's a lot of different names, Acid Art, all sorts of, like, for this style. There's entire like Twitter and Instagram and whatever channels dedicated to posting work from different artists.
Yes.
In this style. And I actually Marathon. We just happened to come across this one. We just happened to come across it because this artist picked it up and recognized the work. But I have seen some eerily similar stuff that other artists have done too.
Yeah, so you're saying there may be multiple reports coming out on
There may be, yeah, or maybe they'll go through it and squash it with the artist before we hear about it, sort of thing. But some of the work that I've gone through of other artists on different on different sites and things like that, I'm like, hold on a minute, I'm seeing some other similarities here and there. But Bungie can deal with that. But the only reason I bring that up, that's not to diminish the theft of the art and how serious it is. But just remember, when you do that, when you try and put this whole art style and you try and put it under N2 has coined this entire other art style, that's actually unfair to many other artists who also embellish this style of art. Like, you have to be fair to other artists as well, especially the ones who pioneered it. Right?
Absolutely.
So so let's not say that they stole the whole art style of this artist. This art style has been around for a very, very long time, and there's many similar works to Marathon. But yeah, the art style is. But yeah, I just can't believe it. Like, what was your thoughts on it?
I don't think that I don't want to sit here and say Sony is going to be a savior, but at this point, seeing the downward spiral of what's going on at Bungie, and there's definitely a problem more on the top end of Bungie than there is on the bottom end, and at this point, I'm kind of rooting for PlayStation to go in there and take what's left and salvage the talent that is still there, right? I mean, that's the thing, because as this ship continues to sink, people are going to jump off, right, for any type of flotation device, and that flotation device in this case is, another company coming to purge them and take that talent. So I think they have to strike right now. I don't know if it's within their legal rights to do it or if it's still too soon. They may have to show some sort of other loss before, but. Yeah, the other thing is, so the art, you kind of educated me on that. I didn't know about the other those other sites, those other artists that possibly have work out there that's we're probably going to see other marks of their trade in the game. But
possibly,
the game itself is the part that I would focus on. I mean, and I wish Persona was still here. I didn't get an alpha code or whatever they're calling it that one weekend, but I did watch Persona play. I watched a bunch of others. And, the problem I have with it is, and I've said this a few times, I watched Skill Up's review of it, and I do have to mention it one more time on the show. It is worthy of getting the notion here. His concern and slight, how do I want to put it, excitement to a certain extent. He wasn't totally negative on it. He said, he said the way that Destiny grew is the way that he sees this game growing. So he goes, when you get Marathon 1.0, he says, in his opinion, he had absolutely nothing backing this up, and I'm paraphrasing, guys. He said, by next September, you'll be playing Marathon 3.0, and it could be an entirely different game. Like, head over heels different. They're going to keep adding to it. That's why people are saying the world looked empty. The problem I have with that, Nib, is Halo Infinite's world was empty, and people came on this show, and they told me, Mooch, don't worry about it. They're going to build on it. That's not always guaranteed.
I would actually argue that in today, with the landscape we have of live service games today, that, let's be honest, are have refined and mastered holding the attention of the masses to a T, with a constant influx and flow of amazing content, right? With things like Fortnite and Apex, and you have these games, GTA 5, and soon it will be GTA 6. That's going to be absolute juggernaut. I don't think we live in a time where you can get away with that anymore. And I'm glad you brought up Halo Infinite, because I think that is a perfect example and a product of that. Is if you do not have the content and the chops out the gate, you are going to be left very quickly. Like, once you see that decline in player numbers, and it's almost like a compounding thing. Yeah,
well,
I don't think they can afford that.
Nib, there's so many, and now we're not at the beginning of a generation where we kind of go through a little bit. There's so many games coming out now. Your game has to hit. It has to hit. Yeah. Like, you just, the window of give me a little more time is I don't even know if you have 4 weeks. I don't know.
No,
I don't think so.
No, because the thing is, it's like, if you do not sink your teeth and hook those players, they are literally just going to go back to the thing they've been playing for years already. That and don't forget, you're not just competing against like the quality of the game per se. You're competing with a long-term investment that they've made into something. Everything from the skins, the characters, the unlocks, the microtransactions that they've already invested. So they have a different level of attachment to these other games. that is completely unheard of in past generations, right?
Right.
In past generations, like you can switch multiplayer games more easily because you don't have these other sort of investments or whatever that you've made. So it's a totally different world now, which is why I also think so many live service games do fail as well. Because they're competing with these juggernauts of interest, time investment. So yeah, maybe SkillUp could be right. Maybe version 3.0 or something will be up to par. But I think if it's going to take up to version 3 to get there, it's dead. It's not going to make it.
So in essence, to go full circle, Nib, don't release something and then wait to get to 0.3 or 3.0. Pardon me. When here's the thing: delay the game and release it at 3.0. Hypothetically speaking, I'm not. They wouldn't call it that, but you know what I'm saying. Like and Sony has to know that now. And I'm not using Concord as an example because it's not apples for apples. But you realize you can't say, oh, we've got a story and it's going to grow and it's going to get better. Nobody, and I hate to say this, nobody's got time for that shit. I mean that wholeheartedly. This is not a Hardy Boys novel. You know what I mean? Where you're going to get to halfway through the book and then pick your ending. We're not doing that. People want the game to be amazing out the gate. If you want to add more amazing, be my guest.
Exactly.
Be my guest. But that's the thing. I think that's where they're at right now with Bungie. I don't think Marathon gets canned. I think it gets delayed indefinitely. So there's no new date. They're not going to say, oh, we're not going to launch in September 23rd. We're going to see in December. Absolutely not. 2 months, that's polish work. That's not a They need, and they don't need to redo anything. They need to add content. You can't launch. Sony's not in the place also. They're not going to launch like Sea of Thieves, where you're going to be out in the ocean and there's 2 fish. And they add the fish later, right? Or the Kraken that's missing legs. You can't do that in this case. Microsoft can afford to do that. They did it with Sea of Thieves. They did it with Grounded. They did it with this. They did it with that. Microsoft can have that long lead time with that because they have a subscription service, right? How many times did you watch, let's just say, I'm trying to pick a Netflix, what was it there? Stranger Things. Stranger Things is they're either on season 5 or 6 coming up or something like that. Well, I don't remember which season it was, like season 4 maybe. I don't know. Maybe it was season 2. One of them was a little slow. It wasn't great. It wasn't great. No. But we all hung in there and we just hung around until it got better. I
would add to that, like also Sea of Thieves and Grounded, which is 2 good examples. They have a unique element to them that is not afforded to Marathon, because Marathon is basically another shooter, right?
That's right.
And it's competing with so many other shooters. Whereas Sea of Thieves, how many pirate sim games are there? Like, besides the Ubisoft Skull and Bones type thing, which is obviously a newer release, like in the last 2-3 years or whatever, there was nothing else like it. And even Grounded, taking on bloody ants and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids type stuff, like whatever it is, like, again, it's a very unique element to its gameplay form or whatever. So they, for people who are interested in pirate stuff, they don't have many alternatives or any alternatives at the time. Whereas with Marathon, it's like a dime a dozen. Like, if this doesn't click, there's so many other.
Well, that's, you know what? Good on you for saying that, Nib. That's my biggest problem here. Who the hell? I mean, you don't have to get a gamer as an executive, like somebody who just got done Twitch streaming for 24 hours. We don't need him or her. But can we get somebody that makes a call on a game, that doesn't look at something and go, initial stages or whatever they call it there when they do their sketch, they haven't even really started much of the software end of stuff. They're just doing sketchboard and they're looking for approval. Yeah. And I would say, so what actually makes you stand out from Tarkov? What makes you stand out from this game? And if they can't give me 3 solid, fun responses, and when I say fun subjective, but I'm saying fun in the sense of different. You can't give me something that I've never seen before. I am not going to greenlight it, because I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what is it you're doing? What do you bring to the table? You just said it. What is it that you're going to bring to the table that's going to bring these people and keep them seated for years, or at least 2 years, and keep them opening their wallet to new skins and new seasons and new this and new that? Now, don't get me wrong. You guys see I play Warzone. All right. Warzone wasn't the first to the party. Okay, they were not the first of the party. PUBG, Fortnite, then they came in here. What did they do? They took I know you're going to laugh because when I say this, because they've had so many different skins out there, and you can be, you know what I mean? You can be the Terminator skin. So, but they're the first ones to actually take that. They took the military from PUBG. PUBG's militaries, but PUBG's pacing is much more serious. It's much slower. They took the fast twitchy pace that Fortnite has, and they gave it a military war background, if you will. Right? Well, so they mesh two things together very well.
They have. I mean, even inherently, just the whole Twitch shooting fundamentals and controls of Call of Duty is inherently addictive and rewarding.
It just is.
It's one of those things, and I remember because I was always like a Counter-Strike dude. Like all throughout school and college and uni, I used to actually play Counter-Strike competitively in different leagues and stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember I always thought like the reason I wasn't so much of a console gamer in those days and more PC is because I just felt everything on console was not quite as precise, not a bit more slower and whatever, and I just had this adoration for Counter-Strike. And I remember when I played the beta for Modern Warfare, like they had the testing, and me and my mates all played it while we were at college or whatever. And all of us unanimously, we were just like, "Oh shit! I think they've done it. Like this is it.
Yeah,
this is the Counter-Strike style Twitch, high precision, constant high kill count, feedback and gameplay feel in the console space." And they've just nailed everything. The controls,
I don't know what they have a patent on. I mean, I can't even see it. I can't even see the patent still being, applicable because you would think it would have passed by now. Like nobody. You had X Defiant came out, Nib, right? Was it a year ago, year and a half ago? And they came close, but the problem was they didn't bring. You can take. I'll give you an example. This was something that hit like fire last year or 2 years ago. Now it's it's chilled out a little bit. A smash burger. I don't know if that's a big deal in England or not, but a smash burger. And the first time I heard about everybody making the biggest deal about this, I'm like, what? Let me see how this is. This is years and years back, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, they just smashed the burger. I'm like, that's it. I mean, right. It's onions, cheese, a bun. And they smashed it. And I'm like, they just take, and people are getting creative. It's not like there's Mooch, come on. There's a special smashing tool. No, there isn't. It's anything that's heavy, that's clean, that you can push on the damn burger. So you can take something and reinvent the wheel and make money and make something that people are enthusiastic about. I get it. I totally get it, right? But X Defiant, they came close to the twitchiness, didn't nail it. And then they're like, we'll do the same modes as Call of Duty. Yeah. Well, legitimately, sir, you just copied the game. Who's leaving this one that's better, seemingly, for yours? You have to have something new, refreshing. And when I play, when I play Marathon in September, if it comes out, like, what are they bringing? What are they giving me that I can't go play right now? And I didn't see anything. I got to be honest with them. I didn't see it. And from a creative mind such as Bungie, with the hits that they had with Halo and then Destiny. You don't have to like Destiny, and you could say Destiny got long in the tooth. I think it did. That's why I see a lot of people going, just make Destiny 3. Yeah. Please don't make Destiny 3. Please don't. Like, make something new. It can be Destiny-esque, but something new, something that Destiny never had, something that Halo never had. That's what, I want to see.
Here's the thing, right? Like, Bungie is actually, I think, PlayStation's biggest studio right now in terms of the headcount. Last I checked, it was like over 1,300 or over 1,200 employees, at least on LinkedIn. I don't, but when I look at Marathon, I'm just like, this does not look like the product of 1,300 plus people.
It really doesn't.
X amount of years.
It really doesn't.
So I really want to desperately believe that they're working on another AAA project behind the scenes, because when I look at Marathon, I don't see it. Like, it barely even looks like a next-gen game.
Yeah.
I don't think technically it's there. Like, it doesn't seem to be screaming at me with in terms of context, broadness, scope, or anything. Any of those things, and I'm just like, really, you all have been working on this all this time? Like, I know you were doing Destiny 2 stuff, but there's so many of you, and look at what other PlayStation studios cook up with even fewer developers.
Right.
So I don't know, man. Like, yeah, I mean, maybe Marathon will be it. Maybe if Marathon does not succeed, that will be the thing. Because as far as I understand, PlayStation's takeover clauses are all based on performance, on sales metrics and stuff, and margins, basically whatever profit and revenue they make. So maybe that will be the nail in the coffin, so to speak, that allows PlayStation to infiltrate.
Is it too late though, Nib? Is it too late when they infiltrate? Too much of the talent is already left. So I mean, I saw that Marty guy on X. He, the music composer for the Halo music that's famous. He said a lot of the I don't know what he said. He said something like the old school boys, or the ones that were the ones that for Halo and the ones that really were there for the beginning of Destiny have left.
Well, I'll put it this way, right? Let's look at PlayStation's track history with their tentpole studios, okay? The ones they've nurtured from the ground up. Guerrilla Games went from Killzone 1, which was, in my opinion, awful. Killzone 2, fantastic. And they've arguably made now the best franchise and certainly best performing franchise that Guerrilla Games has ever worked on, right? In Horizon. Naughty Dog, arguably Uncharted and Last of Us, are the two best products that Naughty Dog has ever made in their history of their studio. Sucker Punch, with Ghost of Yotei and Ghost of Tsushima, arguably two of the strongest IP they've ever worked on. And then you've got Returnal, you've got all, God of War, Ragnarok, and I would say Sony has earned the trust in the sense that if we look at their track record with the studios that they do manage, yes, they've had bumps and all sorts of along the way, but actually the main studios are firing on the best cylinders they've ever had, basically, in their studio history. So if they can nurture Bungie in the same way that they've nurtured these other studios, I think it could still be positive, because fundamentally Bungie understands gameplay, right?
Yes.
And that is the X factor. You just need everything else around the production and the management of the studio and the heads, creative directors and stuff who can extract the most from the team. And I think if anyone can do it, probably is PlayStation.
Okay, here's last question for you, Nib. This is a big one, and it's fun to speculate. So if Sony does take over, does Marathon, if Marathon's delayed for indefinitely, let's say a year, and we have a situation where Sony takes over, or the next game Bungie makes, does Sony make it just a PlayStation PC game? Do they remove Xbox from it or no?
Yeah, that's interesting, because that will be under their proviso again. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they do, because it could potentially be another system seller, right? I will say one thing to add though, which is negative again, is while PlayStation has a great track record with single player games, their track record with live service is atrocious.
Oh, it's not very good. Not very good, no.
Yeah, it's also almost laughably bad right now. So just because they've replicated that with the other studios on the single player front, maybe they might not be able to with Bungie because it's a live service thing. We'll see. But yeah, will they make it exclusive again? To have a Bungie new PlayStation ground up game, that could be a real ecosystem seller, really, let's be honest. So maybe well,
they realize, here's the thing, and a lot of people don't like to hear this, but realistically, if Xbox is doing what Xbox is doing, and they're kind of just slowly removing themselves from the console world,
exactly,
why would PlayStation go that extra mile? They're not. My point is, they're not really that concerned about the sales that they would lose on that console, and by making another game exclusive there, maybe they would be able to grab a few more people from the Xbox front to come over and buy a PS5 or PS5 Pro. So I just think that Sony getting a hold of Bungie, and this also goes if they were, now I don't know if they were to go and make a Destiny 3, then I think Destiny 3 would be the one caveat. I would say they probably would keep Xbox involved, since they have a very large fan base over there.
Exactly, yeah.
For that
I would
particular
agree with that,
game. Yeah.
And Yeah, the thing is, like, yeah, obviously, if it's title's not going to be on Game Pass and the sales splits are already dwindling on Xbox, you have to think, like, I know that you always get these people who are like, no, games should be everywhere, whatever. Like, but as gamers, you should also want what also maximizes the best chance of quality with your
Right.
game. If you scrub away an Xbox port, yes, maybe some people won't be able to play it, but then you only have two platforms that you're optimizing for and porting for, and maybe that will give you an extra 50 to 100, 200 devs that
Yes.
can just prioritize content curation and polish on the other platforms instead, or visuals or whatever else they could do. So maybe doing that could actually lead to a better product overall. And I would say, like, I think personally, Bungie, the best work they've ever done is when they were making exclusives for Xbox. So yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I will see. But I think Bungie right now, like, probably the so far it's been like the worst acquisition PlayStation has made
It
in
is.
recent times. And the thing is, it's such an expensive acquisition as well, with such a high head count. So
I agree with you, Nib. The biggest mistake, it wasn't the acquisition itself; it was allowing the negotiation to allow Bungie to remain independent. That's because let me tell you something. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. Okay, it doesn't matter if we're talking about big company like Bungie and in a situation like PlayStation or Sony. Or you're talking about you're picking up another pizzeria down the road. My point being is you have to, as the owner, have a decent amount of say. Okay, when you forfeit that say, you know this. You're in business. When you forfeit that say, yes, you'll make that chunk of the profits off of them, but you're really hoping that they can be on cruise control and they can handle it on their own. And when a company was spiraling like the way they were, which is the reason that they became for sale in the first place. You know what I mean? It was just it's and Microsoft took that risk with a few too, right? So Bethesda Softworks did very well, but a couple
made them desperate, honestly.
Right.
And I think Bethesda and ZeniMax and everything, I think they probably had a fear that Xbox is gobbling up so much, they need an arsenal of their own, especially in the multiplayer and live service front.
Right.
So out of desperation, they went with one of the biggest names.
That's one of the things I was saying during the acquisition wars when all that was going on. The one thing I said was, I said, we're talking about, not just IP, but talent doesn't grow on trees. Okay.
Exactly.
So they looked at the field and they were like, wait a minute, they're buying up Activision. They're buying up, we have to, it's not that we need to go buy. We can't keep up with Microsoft on the buy, but why don't we make a rational decision on who we pick up and we go pick up the talent? Because the talent, like I said, you just don't get talent growing on trees. And Bungie, okay, at the time, that's a smart move. You think about it. They had, whether you like Destiny or not, you thought it was getting old or not, that's fine. That's not the discussion here. But Destiny ran very well. Right? People might have said I didn't like the story. I didn't like the outfits for the three protagonists and all that. That's fine. But at the same time, the game worked. It felt amazing. The multiplayer still had a decent fan base. They had things working for them. So that I get picking that up. But the problem is, are those same people that when they acquired Nib, are they still there now? That's the part that's concerning.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a weird one because for PlayStation, a lot of those people not being there actually makes the Bungie acquisition way cheaper for them, because I think it's like 1 point something billion of the 3 point whatever it was billion. Is it 3.1?
Right. Yeah. Was for the
it was for retention of
the talent.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And as far as I read the contract, when I read it back when the acquisition went through, when I was reading the clauses, it was basically retention over a 4-year period. And they actually had mass layoffs way before the 4-year period even arrived. So they would have actually saved a lot of money on the acquisition alone. If I had to guess, I would say probably several hundred million. So the acquisition cost probably isn't nearly as high as people think it is. But I guess that what's important is who are you getting rid of? And, as long as they're getting rid of the right people. And I would have liked to assume that they're getting rid of the right people. But then, without being bad, when I see Marathon, I'm like, oh, I'm not so sure now. I'm
Right.
really not sure if they've retained the right talent here because,
Well,
I don't know.
again, the one thing I'll criticize is the world looked empty, but nobody said that the gameplay didn't feel good. They just said that it looked like Destiny multiplayer in an empty world, and I'm like, that's what you've been working on, man. I don't know the level
Yeah.
of the level of creativity and the level of acceptance by executives and watching this happen is really dropped. I mean, I don't, like I said, it doesn't take any. I'm not saying I'm the best judge of it either, but what are you bringing to the table that's new? What is it that you're bringing that's fast-paced action? What is it you're bringing that everybody loves so much about Bungie to a new level? Every single time you bring when you hear Neil Druckmann talk about Intergalactic, and then you talked about how he's not directing the other game they're working on, but he's going to be producing it and he's watching it. You see the excitement. He says all the time, we're taking this. He's like, if you like The Last of Us, we're about to blow your mind. We're about to blow your mind. That's the whole thing. Don't give me The Last of Us in space. You know what I mean? Like, move. You have to give me something else, because The Last of Us made, the story was leaps and bounds different. I'm not going to say better. Leaps and bounds different than, and the mechanics were different from Uncharted. Now build off of that. Now build something off of The Last of Us, and I really do think they will. I know I say this early. You guys know I'm kind of a Naughty Dog fanboy.
My favorite studio.
They really are. Intergalactic is probably the game I'm looking forward to the most. It's a game that I'm going to play. Forget the platinum. I don't care. I'm going to get the platinum, but I don't even care. I'm going to play that game at least twice in a row, like back to back. I just feel like this is going to be something that will be generational, a memory for this generation that'll sit with us for a very long time.
And I will say as well, like, this guy in between doing the gaming stuff is producing like Emmy award winning or nominated
TV shows. Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I watched the last episode of which he directed solely. I forgot what it's called. I think it's called The Promise or something like that. The last episode, with Ellie and everything, when the birthday and everything, and it's really interesting. Like from like a cinema buff perspective, I'm watching this, and I genuinely, hand on heart, I'm not just saying this, right? I don't really care who made it. From a directorial perspective, in terms of cinematography, writing, lighting, all these nuances, I think it might have been one of the best filmed and produced episodes, even though the second episode is still my favorite from like a entertainment perspective. I think in terms of directorship, this was the strongest episode. The camera angles, the use of everything about it, I was just like, wow, this guy who people said was only ever going to be respected in gaming, and once it went to TV or something, it would be mocked and laughed at because gaming has never had that prestige. This is the guy who's producing stuff that's some of the best in TV,
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just like, and he clearly has the writing chops. He clearly has the directorial chops. So for him to kind of take everything he's learned from, let's be honest, some of the best people in film as well, and to apply it to game, because the thing I think that Naughty Dog kind of, especially from fanboys, gets underappreciated. The Last of Us, and Uncharted and stuff, these are not some of my favorite games ever made just because of the fucking story. It's actually the gameplay. I actually think the gameplay of The Last of Us 2 is some of the best third-person gameplay ever in gaming. In fact, the only other game I think I put equal to The Last of Us 2 and in gameplay terms is Metal Gear Solid 5. Metal Gear Solid 5 has way broader systems and more emergent stuff, but the actual visceral impact, realism, animation blending, the dynamism, and all of that kind of stuff, it doesn't have the fluid dynamism and realism of The Last of Us 2, nor the impact, animation feedback, how brutal it is. It's just incredible. Even little things like the way you're running around, and if the way she just picks up stuff, whether it's gear, bottles, bandages or whatever. It's just blended so perfectly. It's almost like real life. Like you're just running through, hopping over these, walls and this and that. And like there's a level of like finesse to those combat systems and to the animations that I actually have never experienced in any other shooter.
Yep.
And when I go to other shooters, like I remember I played Tomb Raider and stuff recently, and then there's a few other games like Quantum Break and Control. And just little things that you take for granted, like why when I am walking forward does a paint bucket stop me dead in my tracks?
Right. Right.
Or like a wall in a Naughty Dog game, you would effortlessly hop over and blend through it like it was nothing because you just move and behave realistically. Or why when I pick up this item, is it so robotic? Like I pause and pick up this thing.
Right.
Whereas in a Naughty Dog game, you do it as you're running or moving without even thinking.
Yes.
And we take these things for granted, but these are gameplay systems. They all add to the gameplay. Even the fact that as you're running around killing and stuff, you can crouch into the grass, go prone, make your Molotov cocktail in dynamically without pausing, without going into the menu or whatever. And it's not as like robotic as like a Resident Evil. Everything is playing out in real time.
Yep.
And then you've made your thing and you throw it, and it's just like everything blends together so incredibly well. And I really think people underappreciate how much refinement goes into the gameplay systems. And to hear Druckmann say Intergalactic will be the deepest gameplay they've ever done, and to see from the little snippet of gameplay that we've seen that it's more melee based, man, I can't wait. Because if they do for like melee combat the kind of visceral dynamic realism they've done for third person shooting, we're in for a fucking treat. Like,
absolutely. I can't wait. I don't want them to rush it by no means, but I hope it comes before like the last, Naughty Dog has that reputation, right? Of they did it with The Last of Us, then they did it with The Last of Us 2. Let's say the next console is 2028. In November. I hope that the Intergalactic doesn't drop in April of 2028. I hope that game comes out the latest, early, maybe early 2027 or I don't really see it coming out in 26. I just don't, because Wolverine's probably 26. I hear, the rumors are swirling now that we're going to see Santa Monica's new, is it Santa Monica that's rumored to have the sci-fi game? I think it's them. And
that's right. Yeah, they've got a new IP coming. I think actually, like PlayStation's second half of this generation.
I said this. Yep. Go ahead. It's going to be. I think it's going to be phenomenal. I really do.
Phenomenal, and I think we're finally going to see all these studios really flex the muscles of what these systems.
Well, listen, that's exactly what we got in the PS4 era.
Yeah.
Look at PS4's launch games up till 2015, and then look at the middle end of 2015 to the 2020, and that last 5 years. Here we are. It's 2025. It is a little bit. I think that the generations are probably going to dwindle to shorter lifespans. I think this one ends in 28. Some people are saying 27. I don't see that personally. They just put a Pro out this year. I don't think they're going to mid-gen refresh, and then you're going to cut it short of a mid-gen. Mid-gen would be 28.
If anything, longer.
Longer, if anything. Yeah. If anything, you're going to drag your feet. Yeah. So
especially like if you think financially, with Xbox's console market share basically evaporating, there's no need to rush. They've got this market to themselves.
Right.
GTA 6 is coming out soon. Huge portion of PS4 owners haven't even transitioned over. Prices are still fairly high. So slowly you can start reducing that price. They're actually in a cushy place right now. Like they are in such a strong position.
And they are. And the thing that bothers me is that's one of the things we always say. We want to kind of encourage, competition, because it betters us. And absolutely. It doesn't just better us in price, but it betters us in product. And so I do think that's the one thing that, because let's be honest, I don't know how PlayStation deems Nintendo. I don't think they look at them as a one-on-one competitor. That's not a bash on Nintendo at all. Nintendo has their own market. I think PlayStation has their own market. And now with Xbox, bowing out in the hardware space, and all their games on PlayStation, nonetheless, PlayStation really, they can do one of two things. They can take their time and really just kind of maximize their profits, and it stinks for us, or they can become a true, legend in that world and dominate and continue to innovate and move the needle further and further past where they currently are. What they'll do, we're going to see soon.
So it's an interesting one because obviously, like, I'm a huge proponent of competition. I actually really dislike the fact that Xbox is going into this multi-platform strategy. I know it might be best for them business-wise, but I would have liked to have an Xbox that's able to hold PlayStation's feet to the fire, even if PlayStation owners don't get to play all these Xbox games, right? I think the product on the Xbox side would have been better for it, and PlayStation would have had to rise to the occasion more. That said, there are certain things going on where PlayStation has a bit more of a motivation and driver beyond just Xbox. For example, they have this huge push in media, right? With these HBO, they want HBO to pick up their shit, right?
Oh yeah,
because HBO is like and unless you're making product that warrants that level of investment and it has the writing chops, has the market appeal, and everything like that, you're not going to get those sort of gigs. Right, you might get lower production instead of like a HBO. It will be like a smaller production house with a smaller budget or whatever, less stardom or whatever. They want the high ticket shit, so they need Intergalactic to be this incredible product and hit with that moves people emotionally and whatever, and gameplay wise in the same way, because then they can get that HBO ticket again.
Absolutely.
So I think they have other incentives beyond just Xbox now as well. So I do think they will still maintain this focus. And to the point about when Intergalactic is going to come out, the only bit of like hope that I have about a sooner release date is Neil Druckmann did say in an interview, I think it was last year, where he said they basically learnt from announcing things way too early. And they want to improve the cadence of announcing stuff to release.
Yes.
So the fact that they've showed it off, I hope he's not just bullshitting, and he's really going to follow through with that. And hopefully, this means that the game is much further along than we anticipate. And if we look at the timeline of their last release, which is what, like Last of Us 2 in 2020.
Yeah, 2020.
And then Uncharted 4 came out 2016. And Lost Legacy in 2017, and they are a 2-project studio.
I think it was.
I know they worked.
I think it was 15 and 17, but I could be wrong.
Okay, but I know they worked on Factions, but it wouldn't have been the whole studio. So hopefully they have been working on this thing for at least since 2020, but realistically probably even earlier than that. So it might actually be a lot further along than we think. We'll see.
No, I
mean,
can ride along with that, and boy, I hope to God you're right, because I'd like to see that come out a lot sooner. Again, you do have other games that are coming down the pipe, and how they have that divvied up. I know that PlayStation, the one thing they won't do is they're not going to have Intergalactic go against one of their other big ones, so it's going to have to. That'll take I would think Intergalactic takes a holiday, or I shouldn't say that because Naughty Dog's also notorious for a May launch and absolutely crushing it.
Yeah,
so they'll take that May into the summer and own that, or they'll take the fall.
Yeah, there's some strong stuff coming, man, because we've got, again, Santa Monica is also a 2-project studio, so we have to look forward to a new IP from them, and potentially maybe a new God of War or something else. So there will be some heavy hitters by the second half of the generation, and then we've got Soros as well, or Saros, or whatever it's called.
Buddy, that's
Yote, Wolverine. Insomniac's got another project as well. So it should be. They should. This is, I think, one of the reasons PlayStation does really well is because Xbox historically, especially with the Xbox One and even the 360, they kind of fade out towards the end of the generation in a really strong way. It fizzles out with, really, really aggressively. Whereas PlayStation, some of their best work is towards the end. God of War 3, Last of Us.
And they're also able to utilize and really squeeze the power out of the box by then, as the developers have learned every nook and cranny to it, right?
Exactly. It should be great. By the way, I remember last... Astro was complaining, which is to be fair, a fair complaint about Doom. You had Doom in your
I did. We didn't get it just got.
No one had played Doom.
No, they didn't, and not only that, they also, to be honest with you, the topic at hand had everybody livid last week. The first topic,
Fine.
So it just didn't even get to that. It wasn't that he was saying it took so long to get to it. That's what he was actually referring to. Yeah. And I'll tell you the truth. It's just the conversation was just blowing up, and then there was a whole thing which was great. It was great back and forth. Great classic Crossfire with Porter Rock and the great Willie Gamer. Both of them fantastic. And they were going at it, and then the chat was involved, and it went on, and then we're almost at 4 hours. I mean, at that point, I gotta even now it's 3 hours 15 minutes. I'm like, this is a long podcast.
I was gonna clarify for your audience that's kind of my fault, by the way, because to anyone who doesn't know, I was supposed to be on the show last week. And I'm the one who told Mooch to put in Doom because I was playing it, and then like Pillock, I fell asleep, and I didn't end up on the show, so he wouldn't have had time to edit the thumbnail or know.
No, the whole Jade Raymond thing hit hours before too, so everybody got all up in that, and that that opens up a lot of different doors for conversations, thoughts people had on the industry, what's going on, what's going to happen with fair games. So. That in combination with what you're saying is we just didn't get to it. No, at the end we talked about it for a few minutes to get a rough call on it, and it was like, all right, that's enough. Have you played it yet? No, I have not. No, I'm honestly, God, I don't. I will eventually get to Doom. I will eventually get to Doom for sure. But after seeing what a lot of people are saying online, I would say that I would say my excitement has been tempered. It's been chilled out quite a bit. I'm enjoying Expedition 33, and I'm just taking my time through that. And I know I've been trying, like I said, I can give a shameless plug while we still have almost 200 people here. Been over on twitch.tv, guys. Go over and follow us over there. It's gonna be Twitch. It's the same thing, Mooch TV, M00CHTV, and just getting my setup ready so that we can do. I've been doing a lot of test streaming with Warzone, and then I was going to either do Expedition, the rest of Expedition on stream, or pick another single-player game and kind of go through that.
It's an interesting thing because you know what the conversation around Doom kind of reminds me of? There's certain artists with every album, they try something a little bit different. And when you do that, you're always bound to upset some fans and appeal to new ones, right? Because the flavor of the music has changed. Maybe one is more like 80s synth techno, another one's more classic hip hop or grimy or whatever. Like, and Doom is the id Tech is software is kind of doing that with Doom. One of it might be more like mobile and fast paced. This one has like a melee and parry focus, with a shield.
Yes.
So the kind of the flow of gameplay, even though it's obviously very Doom-esque, and it's what you're used to, the actual flow of the combat is actually quite different to the other games. And I think that's where there's some level of divisiveness amongst certain fans, because I've heard some people say, oh, it's not as fast-paced as the previous Doom, or why am I having to parry and do this other shit? Whereas similar to Expedition 33, I really enjoy that. I really enjoy the parry and shield focus, and I actually don't think it's as slow. I put some gameplay on my Twitter to prove it. I don't think it's slow the way people are making out. I think once you kind of understand the flow of the combat and how to use shield bash, so shield bash, like in a single instant, you can basically zoom across the map to shield bash anyone that you've targeted on. And that is kind of instead of the dash that you had previously, that's kind of your ground clearance minimizer. So that's how you move around the map, these much bigger maps really quickly using the shield bash, because you're covering vast distances in an instant. And the whole the whole melee and shield stuff, like similar to Expedition 33, I personally felt it added like a bit more of a mechanical and tactical dimension, because suddenly you're, instead of just mindless shooting, that you have to get your timings down and be cognizant of different enemy attack patterns and styles and colors, not just because you're trying to avoid it, but because you actually want to catch certain attacks, like the green attacks. You want to actually instead of avoiding them, you want to parry them in order for you to, boost up your melee or get slow motion so you can execute certain hits and stuff like that. So I actually enjoyed the gameplay switch up. The only thing I found, and the reason I wasn't higher on it, is the kind of other stuff that they've added with the mech combat, the dragon combat. A lot of the reviews complained about that stuff, and I know Doom fans were like really aggro at them. But I think those reviews were actually kind of on the money. The mech stuff is cool to begin with. It kind of wears out its interest a little bit, and the flying dragon stuff, by the end, I just thought it just didn't feel mechanically very good or necessary, and it kind of dragged on. So it was one of those things where like it wasn't executed in all the different ways great, which is why I landed at an 8 and not higher. But I remember the first half of the game, I thought I was going to give it a 9. Yeah, just between the story and some of the other additional stuff.
It's very repetitive. I'm hearing. Which Doom, it's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. But go ahead.
Yeah, I would say by the third act, I was like, it's starting to get a bit samey now. And there's not enough enemy diversity. The extra stuff they've added just isn't adding enough compelling diversity or gameplay switch up. So yeah, but don't get me wrong, I still loved it. I still think it's a great game. But
did you beat it?
Could have been. Yeah, I've beaten it. Yeah.
Oh, you've beaten Doom.
Yeah, I've beaten Doom. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were still. People were also saying it was maybe about.
I've beaten
people
it.
are saying it was about 5 hours too long.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like I've maxed everything, but I've done quite a lot. Like I've collected almost everything there is in the game. I think most of the chapters I have 100% on. There's a few that I have like 98% or like 88% or something. But yeah, I've done quite a lot in the game. But yeah,
are you also playing that on Game Pass?
Yeah, Game Pass. Yeah, Series X.
And how does it look and perform?
Really strong. As far as I understand, it performs and looks better on the Xbox system than it does on the PlayStation stuff. One, because the frame rate is a tiny bit more consistent, and two, I think there's like more of a HDR issue on the PlayStation side where it ends up looking a bit washed out.
Okay.
But I think the contrast and stuff is a little bit stronger on Xbox. So, but yeah, super fluid. In fact, I can't remember a single instance of a frame drop in any of the gameplay, no matter how much craziness was.
I might as well check it out. I still have Game Pass till December, I think, of this year, so I might as well check it out. I'll just do that then. I thought the haptic feedback and other items might have kept you a little bit more glued to the PlayStation side, but if the performance and everything's looking great on the Xbox side, I'll try it there. I don't know if we got Nib back. Nib, we lost you. Usually his microphone
Can you hear me now?
Now I can. Yeah, usually it's only like 4 seconds.
Sorry. Even though it doesn't have the same gamut of immersion as DualSense, because Xbox still has the impulse triggers, it still feels good. Like it still feels powerful and competent. So I think I would probably play it on Xbox instead, just because you're getting slightly better performance, and then you get without the HDR issue and stuff. Yeah, worth it. And I would say, funny enough, it's actually, I felt it was a really good title to play after Expedition 33, because it's a total polar opposite palette cleanser.
That's fair.
Expedition 33 is this, with the story heavy and everything. This is just like gun ho,
this is fast paced, run around blasting things, ripping limbs off. Yeah, it's a lot. It's much different.
Yeah, very different.
Very cool. I've got Thrifty PS Gamer in Super Chat. He says, I don't think there are enough consoles in the market to cover the 50 million attach rate. I think these are older too. I apologize, Thrifty. I tried to keep up with top. And Glinster says, Phil says 4 games seems like yesterday. Here's what I'm going to do, guys. It is 3.5 hours, and I don't know why. I've got to eat something. I'm starving, Nib. I don't know if you're probably going to go get eggs and toast.
Yeah, I'm starving as well.
I'm starving. So I want to say thanks to Nib. Thanks to the guys in the chat. Thanks for the super chat, guys. Please do hit that like button on the way out. Nib, do you want to let everyone know where they can find you on X?
Yeah, just X NIB95_. That's it.
Well, the one person. Please go over and follow Nib, guys. It's a plethora of information. One person I'm going to shout out real quick because he left our Twitter. I don't know, for me, it's just not working really well right now for some reason. The DMs are just not working. Yeah. So if Persona did mention something, I know he had to leave early. I do want to say go over and check out What's Up PlayStation Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. Eastern. You guys can find him at Gaming with Persona on YouTube and Persona Speaks over on X. Guys, do me a favor. Hit that like button. We will see you guys next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. But before you leave, go over to Twitch. twitch.com, Mooch TV, M00CHTV. Go over there and follow me over on Twitch. Honestly, we're going to be on all weekend. We're playing Warzone, other games, probably a little bit of Expedition 33. Who knows? Maybe we'll even start Lies of Peas. Who knows what's going to happen? But guys, go over and follow me over there. Great to see everybody. JC, thank you. Anonymous, thank you. Mr. B, appreciate all you guys. Let's do it again next Thursday. Peace out. Go play a game. Order a pizza. Enjoy your weekend. Peace out. Good night.